Hey everyone, David here, Director of Songs of War, bringing you the Season 3 kind of commentary behind the scenes thing. I'm going to be going a lot faster on this one. Season 2's commentary got to be a lot longer than I expected, so I'm going to be going a little quicker this time. Luckily Season 3 is a little easier to explain because there's not a whole bunch of new sets, so there won't be a bunch of stuff I'm going to be showing. Let's move on. Let's start Season 3 commentary. Let's get going. Right at the beginning, we get something very similar to Season 1 and 2. They open up with these kind of like backstory things. The first one opened with a kind of bit of Death Singer, the second one opened with a bit of Death Singer, so you're kind of expecting Season 3, oh, it's going to open with a bit of Death Singer, and while it kind of does, we see like the Great War again, you're kind of expecting more Death Singer, we actually kind of transition into following the Nether stuff. We get to follow Volcanus, Pythus, Kronos, we get to see a little bit about the story behind that, because that actually ends up being very relevant, very, crucial to the end of the season, and that's why one of my favorite kind of story stuff was some of this Ender stuff in Season 3. It's probably some of my favorite. Sorry if that was just a loud noise. I just moved my mic and it made a really loud punk. I see this big waveform spike. But yeah, some of the Nether stuff becomes really important, and that was cool. We get to see that. We see Volcanus. He wakes up, and then it takes you to Crown Peak, which would have looked very... I don't know how well it showed up in the script. I kind of mentioned it a little bit, but I think in the script people probably stopped realizing this, but most of the sets in Season 3, especially all the Nether-occupied places, were going to be very, like, Netherified. There would have been lots of little, like, lava pools, and Netherrack would have been everywhere. Little bits of fire and stuff, which would have been interesting to see. And, so they talk. We oh yes, this was also from Volcanus Awakens. We see a little bit of, we briefly see Kiki as he wakes up, his little pet ghast. Yeah, we see Kiki here. So, obviously he's going to be a good character when he's got a cute baby ghast as a pet. And then I wanted to open Season 3 with a lot of kind of more of what I had kind of at the end of Season 2 with this kind of like Death Singer and Pythus kind of working together, but they're definitely not friends. There's a lot of kind of tension between them, which is interesting because this is how, the story is going to wrap up like this. Everyone thinks from beginning of Season 1, Death Singer's the main villain. That's what it's meant to make you think right at the beginning. Like, they called him Death Singer. Here's these horrible deeds he did. And that's what you're supposed to think. He's the main villain. But in reality, Pythus is the real villain. Death Singer is a villain, and he is one of the big ones. But Death Singer kind of is like the tragic villain. By the end of this, season, you learn, his story was kind of tragic, whereas Pythus, he wasn't the tragic villain. Pythus went, betrayed his, father, took over the thing, and wants to kind of rule all this stuff, whereas Death Singer just kind of wants to help his people. So right near the beginning, I wanted to kind of reset back up that kind of conflict. So, zooming along, Redstone Academy. Let's go to the Redstone Academy. I have shown this off in a few world tours, so I'm going to kind of zoom through this a little bit. There's a few world tours where I show this place off. Redstone Academy is really cool. The whole place was designed by the... Oh, let me actually show the front. The front's pretty cool, too. Got a big, like, Redstone Academy thing that built inside of a mountain. This whole place was designed as if it was, like, a place that teaches people how to use redstone. It's an academy. So you come here to train and learn redstone stuff. And this goes back into the whole thing I was saying where it's like everything about Songs of War was meant to make the place feel alive, feel like a world, feel like something you'd want to live in, role play in, become part of. So if you wanted to do redstone and you're into redstone and you're into Songs of War, you'd come on and role play and pretend like you go to the academy to train your redstone stuff. Everything in here is actually redstone like controlled. All the lights and stuff can be turned on with redstone. We had big thanks to the builders who were able to pull all this off. I don't know anything about redstone hardly. There's little classes in here and stuff. I gotta show off Mr. Cluckles again. I think he's still down in his office. Let's go find him. I bet he's gonna be in here. Oh no, the door's open. He might have escaped. Nope, here he is. Here's Professor Cluckles. This is just kind of an inside joke of the builders. For some reason we made him here, and he just kind of... he's the headmaster of the Redstone Academy. But the scene takes place down below. If we go down here, this is actually, I think it's very briefly mentioned in the script. There's this cool redstone railway. If you actually follow this whole thing, it actually lets you out near Crown Peak. The idea was that the Redstone Academy was kind of doing this prototype for a rail system, an underground rail system. So for their first test, they went to Crown Peak, which was pretty much the closest city, but they never were able to extend it or whatever. So here's where all the random junk is. I don't think I ever made the device used in the script. That was going to be something I would have kind of made around the time of Season 3. But here's Academy. It's cool. It's fun. Let's keep moving. My throat already hurts. I'm only like 5 minutes in. That's not a good sign. They have a cool fight here. A lot of good dynamics between Greg and Hubris. which is another interesting thing, because the way Season 2 ends, you're kind of expecting, like, oh, Herobrine's here. Oh, there's a big war. We're going to see this whole thing. And I wanted to make sure, while we do get that a little bit in Season... We get a lot of these big battle stuff coming up. But I wanted to open not with just a huge battle right away. I wanted to kind of pull back a bit and get some of these kind of moments with the characters first. And then we go to the big battles. And then again, we pull back after the mid-season break, kind of in season... Not break, but after the mid-season climax in Season 3, we pull back to kind of character-focused stuff again. By the beginning, we get a lot of Hubris, Greg, they're kind of dynamic, their dialogue, I like all their stuff. Frederick, they're all kind of talking. They fight a Wither. I wanted to show the Nether as being really strong right away. So having them fight these Wither skeletons, which are a lot stronger than just kind of the normal undead they just kind of hack through. Then they fight the Wither, which is also meant to be like really powerful, really strong. And we also get to see the Wither do the indoctrination, which was like the thing the Necrolord used on Nika in Season 2. They just fight. They fight. Nothing really like unique here. A lot of Season 3, it's a lot of like action, a lot of stuff, so it's easy to kind of just move right through. Then we get some stuff with Luke and Anika. They're kind of doing their little plan. They're kind of discussing ways to help get the people out of the out from under the Nether control or whatever. So then and this also shows the kind of Hubris and Greg as like they were good friends prior to joining Knights of Ardonia, and here they are kind of like going out and doing their thing on their own, whereas Ria's kind of like, oh no, we got these bigger plans, we gotta go stop these battles and stuff, and Hubris is kind of the one who believes a little differently about like the Prime songs and how the Prime songs matter, which is good, showing some kind of the Knights of Ardonia aren't just 100%, yeah, let's do this, okay, yeah, we'll go there. They all kind of have some of their own ideals and ideas, and I thought that was, I wish I actually pushed that a little harder. Let me get a little drink already, hold on. Slurp. Okay. So nothing really to show. It is now basically just back in Ataraxia, so nothing really to show here. You can see why I designed, where's the blacksmith? Boop, boop, boop. Oh, I was going to renovate, that's true. When Season 3 came around, I was going to rebuild this place, as if, like, I was going to tear out this thing, tear out some of these things, and then make it seem like, I was going to put, like, a little table in the middle, that way when, like, this kind of little planning table, to show that they're using Ataraxia more as a base now. So then, and this also helps get the kind of, rather than just jumping into a battle right away, we get the kind of a little more downtime with the characters first this episode, focus on meeting them, again, reintroducing yourself to them, and then there's also the anticipation towards the battle. And I wanted to show Tidesinger kind of being the Tidesinger bit, but also still try to get like Rhea involved a lot, because she was still kind of becoming the new Tidesinger. So both of them kind of have a lot of the stuff. They all kind of leave, they head out, and then there's a bit here I really like, with a bit here with Gallius and Tidesinger. These were some lines I really liked. In fact, these were on the casting call page, which people found and were posting everywhere online, which was really annoying. But the idea here is just like reiterating the stuff Canthalius mentioned about how Tidesinger is one of the people who he used a lot of songs. You know, he even encouraged Gallius to use his songs, but he kind of feels all these like the same effects Thalius had, where he can't really sleep. He's kind of up all the time. He's kind of always stressed and stuff. And I really wish I was able to go more into that and integrate that more into the story, because that was supposed to be a pretty big thing about these songs are really strong, but there's these weird kind of just strain on your life, on your mental state, on your physical state and stuff from using these songs. Fortunately, never went too much into that, other than kind of just showing some of these characters being a little kind of distant and stuff. And then we also see stuff about how Ingressus, where was it? It was we've seen very few Voltaris, and Ingressus himself hasn't been present. As in, this was supposed to be a little indication, kind of, that like, you know, this kind of new war began. The Knights of Ardonia kind of been fighting the Nether, but it's kind of showing like they've been fighting pretty much just the Nether. The Voltaris have been kind of keeping out of it, showing kind of that the Voltaris didn't really want this war. They just kind of wanted to get the Prime Songs back, get their clan back, have themselves not be killed. They're not really involved Deathsinger hasn't been going around killing clans, killing villages or anything. He's been kind of staying out of it, which is starting to kind of allude to the stuff. Also, it's every single time, again, you can see here, every single time Tidesinger says Deathsinger, he always calls him Ingressus, which is interesting. And then we get a bit with Onyx and Masani, which was nice because this scene initially wasn't there. It was really late in the script when we realized that Masani and Onyx initially didn't have this scene, which meant they didn't have any dialogue in Season 3. They basically just had nothing, and then they died in Episode 2. And we were like, man, if people liked Masani and Onyx from Season 2, even though they didn't do too much, and they're like, oh, I can't wait for Season 3, we'll see what they do. And then, like, they don't have any lines in Episode 1, like, oh, what will they do in Episode 2? Onyx dies. Oh, wonder what Masani will do in Episode 3? Masani dies. So we added some scenes where we get to learn a bit more about them, their motivations, before they die. And then they all... Good way to kind of end the first episode is then they're all kind of moving out, getting ready for the battle. Episode 2. Big Meridian battle. This one's going to be a real fast one to speed through. There's not a... This whole episode is pretty much a non-stop battle. Man, my throat really hurts. There's like this weird pain in this kind of like your jugular. It already feels really tense. I only just started talking. Well, I've been talking fine for days, and then I talk about 10 minutes for this thing and it already hurts. Maybe it's because I'm like looking to the right on my right monitor. Anyway, here's Meridian. Again, it would have been lots of like lava pools around, lots of just dramatic lighting, dramatic fire, dramatic look. It's all like kind of nether occupied. So they attack. The dragons start attacking, and then they were going to come from way over there. They would. I think I had them like start from kind of behind this hill. There's like this kind of abandoned slums city kind of thing out here, where there used to be a city, but it's kind of got abandoned as they move towards the city. They were going to come over, kind of charge down here, work their way across the bridge, and kind of work their way into. This is where I think Saxon and Trevor like threw the whole Ender Pearls in, or threw the Ender Pearls over, unlock the gate from the inside. They all pile in. A lot of cool action here. Nothing too, like, specific. Oh, that's right. We do get a little break where then, as this is happening, we do see what's going on in Crown Peak, which I thought was cool. So then Pythus is we're really going to see that Pythus is not the Deathsinger kind of villain. He's not this kind of calm, collective villain with, like, maybe some deeper backstory. Pythus is just kind of like the bratty younger son who was jealous and unhappy with his dad, so he killed the previous king, killed his father with no remorse, and now he's king, but he's really not like deserving of being a king or anything. But he's sitting on the overworld throne, he's sitting on the Nether throne, and of course by the end of this one he also sits on the Ender throne and stuff as well. But so we see him all just being like kind of in a rage and a fit, and then we get back to Solomon and Deathsinger, and it's basically a perfect contrast. Deathsinger is very like, Pythus is all like pacing around. Pythus sits around. This is also, I don't even know if I mentioned this before in any of the other behind the scenes. There was something kind of physical about Pythus and Deathsinger that's going to be very contrasty as well. Pythus we see sitting a lot, sitting on thrones, kind of sitting down, slouched down against things, usually just sitting on thrones. And then Deathsinger almost always stands. He's almost always standing up, and that was supposed to be kind of a little bit about the contrast of their characters. Pythus is someone who, he sits in the throne, he occupies it, and then he sends other people out to do his stuff. Whereas Deathsinger is he doesn't care about these like thrones and like ruling these things. He's always very standing up, and as if he acts himself, he does the things on his own. And that was going to be a very interesting contrast between, there's even a bit later where Deathsinger's like, you can sit, but I prefer to stand and stuff. He's just someone who really is not someone who kind of sits down and stops, and he's got a lot of stuff to do, and he's always kind of standing and ready. Anyway, though, so other than the bit where he sits on the throne later to kind of mock Pythus or confront him. But we get a good bit of Deathsinger and Solomon. Also a good opportunity to kind of work in some more good Solomon dialogue, and Solomon talking about all these, like, just see some of his thought process of how he doesn't really care that he betrayed all these people. It's all for him, it's just about himself. Pythus and Deathsinger argue. Good dynamic between them. Both, Deathsinger's the one who's, again, he's not, I don't know, witty's not the right word, but he's he's better at the arguing, he's better at keeping calm and collective, and Pythus just gets mad. blah 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 blue, blah 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 blue. Stuff happens. Tigran joins the fight. I think Tigran and the Angel Death join the fight or something. Some different ones join the fight, yeah. Tigran shows up. This is what I kind of mentioned this in the Season 2 commentary. This is the thing where, again, Tigran, like, gets in under Onyx's skin, uses a song to kill him, which was also interesting because we realized, like, no characters were dying by songs. No one died by Tigran's big energy ball. We had this big, cool energy ball, and everyone always just evades it, blocks it, dodges it. So we had Onyx get killed by the big energy ball song thing. There's a cool bit here at one point where Grim lets a little iron golem out, but nothing to say there. It's just kind of adorable. People did some cute fan art of that. Tigran fighting Sen. Yeah, and then this is what again I mentioned, that Sen kind of turns it around and makes Tigran angry, which then kind of gets Sen with a little bit of advantage starting out. This was going to be a really cool fight because, again, this is the fight that, you know, Sen's been kind of taunting him a bit since, or the Tigran's been taunting Sen in Season 2. Tigran's had the sword the whole time, and now this is like when Sen's trying to, you know, hopefully fight and reclaim the sword. It's interesting, I did see a lot of people in the comments of, like, Discord and stuff saying how Tigran died really fast, it's really anticlimactic. But in my opinion, everything is going to be anticlimactic when there's a script and you just kind of read it as like a sentence and then he dies. Trust me that most of these fights that seemed anticlimactic, especially like the Pythos and Necrolord one from Season 2, the Tigran one here, these weren't going to be just like a one-sentence thing, fight, boom, I died at the end. They would have been obviously very exaggerated, very good music, very nice tones, good pacing, good moments where it's like very dramatic and someone's like not going to live. And I thought this one was actually a pretty cool setting. It was kind of like the Thalia's first Tigran one in episode 6 of Season 1, where there had been kind of bits of lava and fire around. They would have been fighting up on these walls. Sen goes up against him. We see, you know, Sen and Rhea and stuff, they've been training a bunch between Season 2 and 3 in the war and stuff. They've been getting better as well, so now they're able to kind of stand up against him. But Sen alone still obviously not, you know, Tigran was an amazing fighter, so Sen still didn't quite beat him, and that's why Tigran starts getting the upper hand, and about the end he's looks like Sen's about to lose. And then Rhea joins, which was actually kind of a late decision as well. We were going to have them fight a little bit, and then Sen would kind of get this surprise upper hand at the end and then kill Tigran. But then what we realized is, as much as we were thinking, like, yeah, Sen, have the main character kill Tigran, we were thinking it really made more sense to have Rhea at least involved, because really Rhea lost a lot more to Tigran than Sen did. Rhea lost her whole, like, her father, her family, what she thought was her friend Thalias and stuff. Like, she thought Sen died and stuff. So it made sense to have Rhea involved. Also made sense to have both of them fighting Tigran simultaneously. That way he's kind of outnumbered. He's trying to fight both of them, and then they eventually get him. Falling into lava wouldn't have been like the bloopers where splash. I mean, I thought that was about as cool of a dramatic way to die, and rather than just like stab, dead, he gets like stabbed, sliced, falls off. Just trying to just get over, because they do get a sword. Yeah, she falls into like a lava thing and literally burns to death. So I don't personally agree with people that saying that was a kind of anticlimactic and simple death for Tigran. I thought that was visually one of the coolest ones. Most other characters just, even like Denny gets kind of just shot, dies. Kiyoshi kind of stabbed in the back, falls over. Thalias, spear in the back, falls over. Tigran, stabbed and kicked off the edge, falls into lava, burning slowly. What a fitting end for a character who's done so much evil stuff. But anyway, I won't argue my point. If you thought it was anticlimactic, maybe it was. But I will say that it would have been better seeing it visual with all the music and all the stuff. Bit of downtime. Downtime. It's just dialogue, nothing really like unique here. There was a bit where oh yeah, Trevor almost gets his first enchantment and then it doesn't work and it fizzles out. And there's a little bit here where Sen or Borgin talks to Sen, and we get that. That's what I was saying last when I was talking about Season 2 stuff. This is that bit where initially Sen never even learned that Igneous died, but now he does, and Sen gets Igneous' books and stuff, and Borgin gives him that. Then we get a little bit of Rhea and Sen doing some training again, like Season 1, which is kind of nice, having them kind of do a little kind of practice fighting stuff. The episode ends, cool dramatic ending of all the Knights of Ardonia like beaming through the portal into Flora. So now they've kind of liberated Meridian and they go to Flora. That in a really cool trailer shot of all of when I had those little beam effects from season 1 of them beaking in, I was doing those effects with this scene in mind, so you would see like all them coming in, very similar to the StarCraft Something of the Void trailer or whatever. That was really cool looking. So they go to Flora. And this is the bit I was saying, Deathsinger then now sitting in Pythos' throne and kind of like confronting him. And then he's saying he's going to go to Ataraxia while Pythos tries to deal with this stuff. Deathsinger's going to go straight to the heart and kind of deal with it. Not much to say in this battle. It's kind of a battle that just didn't really work out. They had to retreat. Masani dies. Everything kind of went to crap. Nothing really. Some of these episodes, there's not really much to say that wasn't like obvious. There's a bit where they're crossing the river, and Deathsinger would have seen that when the Guardian. Remember when the Guardian looked at Sen in season 1? He like looked into his memories to see who he was. The Guardian would have done that here to the Deathsinger, and the idea kind of always behind this was an interesting one of like the Guardian would have seen into the Deathsinger's history, which the audience doesn't yet know. The Guardian would have known the Deathsinger. He would have known the Deathsinger's intentions and how the Deathsinger wasn't really like fully evil, and the Guardian would have seen that, and then the Deathsinger would have kind of known that. And there's a bit where it's even like, oh yeah, here we go. This, okay, it was a little after it. Yeah. So yeah, the Deathsinger kind of had this little connection moment with the Guardian, and he comes up anyway. Back. Let me actually go on that bit of work. Or did I name it? Yeah, okay, I did put the RTG. River of the Guardian. So he would have like kind of seen. The Guardian would have seen his past, and he would have kind of saw the Guardian stuff and realized the Guardian wasn't going to kill him or hurt him. But then Lucidius just kills it because he doesn't know. Which was the interesting stuff that I mentioned, I think, after the season 2 stuff about how Lucidius. They spared Lucidius, or Abigail spared Lucidius, but then now here he's, not really a good character. He doesn't really like, oh, he got spared, he becomes good. He becomes a good Voltaris. He still is Voltaris, he just because he got spared doesn't like change his beliefs and everything. So then it becomes an interesting kind of morality thing you can look back at and be like, should Abigail have spared him or not? They go through, Val, just defending a lot. This would have been a really cool other battle, seeing like the Voltaris attacking Ataraxia, Ardonia on Ardonia using songs. Val would have been able to like fly around, and there'd be like songs going off and exploding all at night. This whole season would have been very undoable, honestly. Like, this is another reason why we didn't do season 2, because it was like we're barely scraping by to do season 2. Then we're gonna have to do season 3 again, or do a whole nother seasons. But it's even more like battles, crazy lighting effects everywhere. It's cool to read, though. It's cool to imagine. So they arrive. Gallius. I did make this. There's a little like back entrance area where you can actually, if you come all the way down here, there is like it's not really like a secret way, but there is a path that takes you out of Ataraxia that's not like the main front door. But then there had been a bit where I think it was gonna be like right here. Yeah, he came right here, and then right there that bridge would have gotten blown out, and then Gallius would have been here, and then Deathsinger would have confronted him, and then Gallius gets killed as well. And then again, this was the second character that we'd realized that none of the characters were dying by songs. So we want to get it. The songs were these big things, and songs of war, songs, they're cool, they're powerful, but no characters were getting killed by them other than just like random background ones. So we thought having some main characters get killed by songs, which is why we had Onyx and Gallius. Gallius made sense as well because Gallius was very anti-songs, and songs are dangerous and songs like ruin people, so kind of fitting for him to also die by the very thing that he was trying to tell everyone was like so wrong with songs and stuff. He dies. Poor Val, she flies off. She's kind of sad. She realized that like, together they weren't going to defeat Deathsinger. Some people wondered why Gallius didn't fight back, but I thought that was kind of obvious. One, obvious? What did I just say? Obvious? One, Gallius isn't too much of a fighter. Yes, he is like decent. He's able to train Sen and stuff. But he's not like, shoot this soldier, gonna go out and fight and stuff. And then two, he just realized like, what's the point? what am I going to go try to attack Deathsinger? If I run at him with a sword, he's just going to blast me, or him and his friends are going to all kill me. So he went out with a little more dignity. He spoke his way to the end and just kind of took it, accepted it. There was a nice bit in this dialogue here, though, where once again we really start, like, at this point you still don't realize all the Deathsinger story stuff yet. You know, we had it teased a little bit at the beginning of Season 2 with a few, like, odd, mysterious flashbacks, but then in Season 2 we don't get much of it at all. There's little bits of lines where, you know, Deathsinger's like, you know, I wouldn't want to kill you, Tidesinger, but I will do what I'm, that kind of thing. So there's all this, like, kind of, like, teasing, and here again we get a bit more about the Deathsinger being like, you know, do you know what Thalius did to my people? And then Gallus is like, yeah, he was a champion, as they called him. And now we finally start to really learn, like, what champion meant to the Voltaris. The word champion sounds like good thing. Yeah, you're our champion. Yeah, you get to, you know, go in the tournament, you get to become the champion. What that really means is you get to become the hunter, the mercenary, you know, who is given the prime songs, these super powerful weapons to then track down and kill the clan, which gives a kind of different light on Thalius even. And this was something we thought was interesting, and again, I wish we actually pushed this a little more, is that Thalius is like the main character in Season 1. Everyone likes Thalius. Yeah, Thalius is fun. Got funny bloopers on brand peas. But in reality, although Thalius, you know, he thought he was still doing things for the right reason, he had some pretty weird, shady past where he was basically like a servant of these old Ardonian clan masters, and he was sent to kill all these Voltaris, and he got really into it, and he continued, you know, even after the war ended, he continued hunting down the Voltaris long after the war ended, and everyone else was like, you know, dude, the Voltaris are gone, but he continued tracking them down, and that kind of shows like a pretty darker side to Thalius, and how he had some kind of moral complications and darker side anyway. So we get to learn a bit about that, and then I thought it was also nice that, you know, Thalius killed a lot of Deathsinger's family. Thalius was one who killed Deathsinger's, you know, his dad, Dominus Voltaris, and made Deathsinger become the master, which is why that Season 2 opening was really kind of relevant, that crucial point. But then Deathsinger gets to kill Gallus, which, you know, sure, Gallus didn't do anything wrong necessarily, but still, yeah, he is still a bad guy after all. Deathsinger, at one point we were even mentioning that Deathsinger maybe wouldn't kill Gallus, but we didn't want Deathsinger being so, like, justified and so, oh, he's not killing anyone. He is still a villain. He's just a villain with a pretty kind of tragic past, as you learn. But you're thinking maybe he'll live. You know, Abigail went and flew off the dragon trying to save him. Abigail arrives just too late. He dies. So, first 2 episodes, a lot of action. So those first 3 episodes? Yeah, it's 3 episodes. Already on 4 now. I told you these would go a little faster. So we get these first bunch of big action, then it kind of tones back a little bit for this episode, so I'm going to take another drink of water. Again, I'm not going to be editing any of this stuff out, sorry. You have to kind of sit through that. This is too long. It's like hours long. La 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 la. Oh, they go back to the hideout, that's right. They return to the Knights of Ardonia hideout, which I thought was nice, because we saw that one scene. Then they never used it again. Then they went to Ataraxia for Season 3. So I thought it'd be nice having them kind of fall back to that point. And now the Knights of Ardonia is kind of small again. And this is kind of where I thought Season 3 was kind of cool, is that it scales up. Everyone's been wondering, you know, oh, when are all the characters going to meet? By the end of Season 2, a lot of them start meeting up. At the beginning of Season 3, everyone's united. There's a big battle. You know, everyone's in Flora at one point. There's Lucan, there's Nika, there's the Knights of Ardonia, there's the Ender Knights. They're all there in Flora battling these big battles. But then I wanted to really, like, while big battles are cool and epic, I feel like a lot of stories have the kind of Act 3 problem where they go too big and too epic, and then you start losing focus on your characters. So I wanted to then back up. You know, the battles don't go well, and then you kind of have the moments of the characters. Also, if you look at Season 3, there's an interesting kind of rise and fall of kind of victory and defeats and tension. Like, first, they open up, they take Meridian, yeah, big epic battle, they won. Then, oh crap, they fail at Flora, they have to retreat. Oh, they lose Ataraxia, they lose Gallius, oh, things drop right back down. But then they start going back up, they start, like, they're going to go get the Prime Songs instead. They go after these Prime Songs, things are going good, they get the Prime Songs. Then the big snow battle happens, things drop even further than they were. So you get these nice kind of, like, by the end of the episode 5, things dropped way to the bottom. It's like basically everyone's separated again, everything's lost. But anyway, so things have kind of toned down a bit. Now there's like less characters, it's just kind of the main team and probably some background people hanging around the place, just not talking and stuff. But then Frederick has the thing, he locates prime songs, so they do actually go after the prime songs. There's some bits here where Tidesinger mentions that, like, yeah, Tidesinger doesn't really want to use the prime songs. He didn't use the Aggressive one in the first Great War. He doesn't really want to use them now. Tidesinger saw what the prime songs did to Deathsinger, what they made him become, and he doesn't really want to become that. He doesn't want to have that thing. But it's interesting that then Rhea ends up kind of, like, by the end of this season, Rhea is the one who's using him. She kind of, this is why she, like, kind of becomes a Tidesinger at the end, not Sen or anything. Yeah, so Frederick tracked the thing, which is the thing the Deathsinger was trying to track, you know, by taking the Redstone Academy early on. Then Abigail gets the kind of fake message about Bangorn. So then they decide to split up. A nice scene with Lucas. Then, yeah, so Luke and Anika were at Meridian. They came back. They retreated through the portal with a lot of the other people because I wanted to get them outside Flora. That way they could re-infiltrate again, kind of sneakily. But they're on their way back. They're not really staying with the Knights of Ardonia, and they're not really going to other places. They were still at Meridian. Rather than going back to the stuff, they take a boat. And if I actually pull up the world map, let's see. Songs of War, world map. World maps. Sorry, these pages are loading. These are huge maps. There we go. Okay, sorry, really slow load time. So they were down. Yeah, let's look at the map for a moment. So they were attacking down here in Meridian. They used the beacon to then get to Flora. Things went wrong. They retreated back. Now Luke and Anika are way down here, but they're gonna sail back up and then re-infiltrate it and stuff. And you can see why they were using the beacons and stuff to get hold of them and stuff. They're heading back. The ship finally sails, quite literally. La 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 la. More good hubris and correct dynamics. Oh, I should have left that open because we do get a new location. So one of the prime songs is way up here in Gale Point. We'll go there in a moment. The other one is way out on one of these uncharted islands. I don't even remember which one. One of these. Maybe one of those. Maybe one of these. Oh man, what would that have been called? Oh man. I do want to look at this place. It was kind of cool. It's a nice little area. I'm going to quickly see if I can find the, doesn't look like it's any of those. Probably passed it already. If I don't see it, I'll not go. If I can find it, I'll, Island Cave, I think that's what it was. Yeah, here we go. So one of the... it was weird Minecraft sounds. We thought having one of the prime songs are all different places. He put them in different kinds of places. One of them's like, put it in the vault. It's kind of defended and defendable. There's a lot, that's what the vault's for. One of them was way at Gale Point in the middle of nowhere at the top. One of them was with his friend who's gotten experience with hiding things and being black market stuff and having secret rooms and things. And then one of them is just way out in the middle of nowhere in a cave. If we go in here, nice cave. I like, these were the sets I always enjoyed helping build because it's just kind of like decorating things with rocks and leaves and water. They come in here, there's a lot of cool things to kind of like navigate around as a player, explore. But if you go way down here, they hit the prime song way down this little, it can be navigated on foot. You can like traverse your way all the way down here. So here's the prime song bit. They get that, then and then we also see a bit where Hubris, as he holds it, he's kind of like Sen in season 1 when he sees the prime songs, or even the kind of normal songs where he's like kind of enchanted by it, showing how pretty much all these Ardonia have these problems with these songs, where especially the prime songs, where they're just so, it's kind of like the ring from Lord of the Rings. And then Greg's having all these weird problems. He's being cramped. He's complaining and stuff. You're wondering kind of what's happening with him. Then we'll learn a little bit that he does level up, which was the thing that he kind of mentioned a little bit last season. And last season he was talking about how this, there's just not enough fighting and stuff to level up anymore. But now that there's like a big war, obviously he got enough to kind of work his way up. Then we get to Bangorn. I like Bangorn's another cool bit. This was a whole nice scene. I liked all the once Volcanus showed up, that was where the end story, I think, really to me became my favorite. The earlier stuff with the Ender stuff, season 1 was probably the weakest for the Ender stuff. Wasn't even really end related. It was just kind of Abigail hunting some mercenaries. Season 2 is nice, kind of meeting the crew. Doesn't really feel too end focused until maybe right at the end when what the heck is this horse here? Till right at the end when she's like fighting in Crown Peak, fights Alistair in the dragon battle. And then we get a little, but then it just becomes like big battles and stuff. We don't really get to focus on the end characters or the Ender story. This is what I was talking about, how we start the big battles, but now we pull back in each of the stories. Like Luke and Anika now get their own little story with like liberating Felden and Nitsuki, these characters who are relevant to that arc, kind of just focusing on that arc, going to Flora and saving Flora. The Ender stuff kind of splits up. Sax and Trevor were captured. The Minecraft server just crashed. Denny dies in next episode. But so all the stories kind of break into more of their own focus. So this one now the End and the Nether finally start like being combined. Like we have Volcanus' character who is on a Netharan, but he's kind of against the Nether regiment leaders. He's against Pythus. And that's a cool way of connecting the kind of the End and Nether stuff. Good location for this kind of like goes here, thinks there's people here, but then the city's vacant. Volcanus is here. He does a cool little sword fight against her, kind of testing her, seeing if she's up to the stuff he's going to have her help with and stuff. But also, honestly, a lot of this fight was because I wanted cool trailer material. Like, no joke, that's how a lot of these scenes were considered. Even in season 1 and 2, a lot of these scenes were like, we gotta make the trailers look cool. So I thought it'd be cool having these two characters fight here. You think he's a villain at the point in the story, and then that way in the trailer we can really make Volcanus seem like he's going to be a villain. And that was one thing I was going to do with a lot of the marketing for season 3. I was going to really make it seem like, it's this End versus Nether stuff. It's Pythus and Volcanus and all the Nether against Abigail and the Ender Knights and all the End stuff. And there's a bit even early where it's like in episode 1, I think, Pythus goes and speaks to Volcanus. Let me see if I can find that bit. There's a cool bit. Let me see. First bit where Volcanus speaks. Excuse me. Actually, it might have been episode 2. Yeah, there's a bit where Pythus and Volcanus meet each other for the first time. And there's a bit where Pythus is like, something like, you're my weapon. I'm going to use you as my weapon against the something. I don't remember exactly where. There's some dialogue here that was written with the idea that like I would use it in the trailer to make it seem like Volcanus was this kind of special unit, kind of like the Angel of Death. Like he's someone who follows Pythus, and he's going to be set out to kill the Ender Knights and stuff, while Pythus kind of works on ruling the overworld and stuff, and he was going to be the main enemy to the Ender Knights. And then I'd use footage of like the battle here in Bangorn with Abigail fighting Pythus, and the dragon like gets hit by that cool arrow that kind of stuns Luna. She knocks a few of these huge pine trees over, which would have like tipped over in the background. Really good backdrop as they're fighting. So you think all that, and all the trailers and promotional images would make it seem like it. I'd hype up this kind of ongoing duel between like Abigail and Volcanus as Volcanus is hunting them, and then it turns out that that's not the case at all. Volcanus is then like, yo, my dog, I'm not that bad. So then he talks, tells them about their stuff. We get to meet Kiki. Hold on, let me take another drink. Meet Kiki. We learn about the whole stuff with like Volcanus says a little bit about what's going on. Also talks about how as the Nether gets stronger, the End gets weaker, and that was this kind of idea I thought was kind of cool, that the two realms are always in this kind of balance. They've always been at war, but they've always kind of been at balance. It's never been like one just completely destroy the other, and if one starts winning too much, the other one just starts kind of weakening, and so he kind of also wants to retain a bit of that balance. But still, he does, at this point, he doesn't really want to like be friends necessarily. He just kind of wants to stop Pythus and stop the war temporarily, at least for now. And then he has something he needs from an ender chest, which of course we learn later is like the crown and the sword, which proves he was the king. But he doesn't mention too much about this stuff yet. So they're gonna still board the boat. They get some nice dynamic again, and then another episode ending, and then boom, episode 5, which was, in my opinion, I think my favorite episode. I did like season 2, episode 9 a lot because there was a lot that happened in that episode, a lot of dramatic moments, a lot of big fights, a few character death stuff. But I think season 3, episode 5 is just overall my favorite. A few reasons. One of them is, I don't know if you noticed this, it's the only episode in the entire series, unless you really count episode 1, kind of because it's like but that had like the big prologue. Other than that, it's the only episode that stays in one set of characters and one location the whole time. The whole episode. We don't get any breakaways. We don't see what's going on with the Nether at any point. We don't go see what's going on in the Death Singer at any point, because of course he ends up showing up. We don't see what's going on with Luke and Nick at any point. The whole episode we just focus on them, and the whole episode is just this snowy bit. And there's just a lot of, just in general, I thought the episode had very nice writing as far as like the dialogue, the dynamics, the kind of rising and falling of tension. We get, like, the episode opens, you know, already with this kind of like bleak, the snow blowing, the kind of, it's setting up the mood, setting up the tone. Let me actually head to the Northwind Pass area to get the mood going. Northwind Pass. We actually saw Thalius traveling along here with Hawken in a bit of the prologue. So they're here in this kind of pass, and the wind's here, and they're kind of hanging out, getting ready to go into Northwind. So you're already starting to get a little bit of the kind of the mood, the cold mood, and then we get Hubris, you know, showing out the prime song. I almost said the premium song, the prime song, and again, he's kind of like hesitates when handing it over. Tiger kind of quickly takes it, noticing kind of a bit of that. And then we get some nice moments with Greg, which I thought this was good, that this whole episode actually opened, other than a little bit of kind of foreboding kind of feeling at the very beginning. Then we get kind of comedy. We get Greg, like, there's this moment where, oh, what's that? Someone's coming over the hill. There's this big shape coming over the hill. This was again, this episode got rewritten a fair amount. We really like wanted to get get everything with Greg working well, get the whole episode working well. Sam and I remember sitting on the balcony having a lot of thoughts on this episode, how we could just write it in such a way that really worked. So we added this whole bit where, like, we see this tree coming over the horizon almost, but you don't know it's a tree. Like, you just see this over the hill, like this shape, and then the shape gets higher, and then you realize it's like one of these little pine trees. Greg's underneath, and he's like, oh, hey guys, and he just chucks the tree into like the little fire, which I thought was, that whole scene worked for so many reasons. One is it kind of like set up this kind of tension, and oh, it's just Greg, so it's kind of a bit of funny. Then two, it's funny that like Greg's just holding this tree because he's like, he leveled up, and he's just, you know, completely not even thinking about it. He's just like, oh, hey guys, you know, while he holds a tree, then chucks the tree into the fire, which also shows just how much stronger. That was the other kind of point of this scene, was showing he leveled up now, and he's even stronger now. He's even, you know, better, I guess. He's a better person now that he's stronger. No. And then it also showing, like, kind of more comedy. He throws the tree onto the fire as if, you know, he was going to get firewood, rather than, like, you know, getting some branches and sticks or maybe chopping some bits of wood. He just brings the whole tree back and then throws the tree on the fire, and then it kind of, like, sputters on the, where was it? Hey guys, throws it over, lands on the fire, smothering it. Kind of, Hubris has to kind of like, you know, duck out from under it. Thunderdome's kind of resting, and flames and stuff kind of spit out. But I was like, oh, just kind of causing a little mess. He doesn't quite realize it. He's just kind of laughing, and all this is kind of like to set the viewer up with the kind of XP, kind of set the viewer up with this kind of lighter mood. Now you got a little bit of tension in the beginning, but then it lightens up. Now we meet Greg, we get some funny bits, we get to see all the whole Knights of Ardonia team kind of working together, all their dynamic. Notice they came on dragons, that way we could just bring just like the main characters. And he kind of talks until this. So he talks about his leveling up and stuff. But yeah, so we get nice moments. It kind of calms. Sorry, I might talk about this episode a little more just because of how much I like this one. There's a lot to talk about. Then we get them. So yeah, then there's a blizzard going. So they're here, and it's not too bad here. But if you go beyond the mountain range, you head into Northwind, and that's where. Wait, I just turned around. That's the wrong way. That's the wrong number. Or am I? No, that was the right way. Oh, okay, I didn't realize the foothills went on this long. Okay, yeah, makes sense. So, let me generate some chunks. Am I on max distance? Oh, I did set it down so it'd be a little smoother for the recording, because I am going dual monitor and I'm recording my screen and I have shaders on. There we go. So the idea was that there's this like blizzard over in these like snow flats and stuff, and that was why they kind of call it Northwind. There's always actually I got very into this series, obviously. It's maybe one of the reasons the world feels so alive and stuff. And I have things like I've got like the crop map. I have a map I made that shows what kind of crops grow in what areas. That way, like when we were building, we could kind of keep it kind of consistent. Like, okay, this climate has a lot of beetroot, but you wouldn't see like carrots growing here. This area's got a lot of potatoes, and I tried to keep that consistent. Another thing I did was that one of the reasons they call it Northwind is there is this big wind that kind of comes in from the coast here, and that's why all those. If you've seen the ice spike region, there's a big region of ice spikes. I can actually go there real quick. It's kind of cool. It's right next to me. This was an area we never. I don't think this ever shows up anywhere in the story, but it's visually pretty cool. Let me set the time a little earlier. It is not generating these chunks. I'm gonna go a little higher. Let's go like 28. There's this cool area here with all these ice chunks, but notice that all these ice spikes are all kind of facing inward, and that was supposed to be kind of like the water from the coastline is being blown inland, blown onto these things, and then it kind of freezes, and then kind of so all the wind blowing the kind of the water off the surface of the ocean is then causing these big spikes. And if you look back in the map, all the wind blows in, it kind of funnels between these mountain ranges. That's why there's these big snow flats where it just swept by winds and stuff. Then it blows out this way and then blows across the top. And then as it blows up here, there's also still winds coming left, and this is where we get the really intense winds. And that's why that was the area they ended up crossing to get to there. There's some Songs Awards geography lessons for you. Anywho, so they have to travel across the snow flats while there's a blizzard going, which would have been, again, very dramatic. So now we go from the kind of beginning to now they're traveling across it. It's just pure whiteout. You can't see anything. They're just, they're using the dragons as cover, kind of hanging under the wings, staying on like the opposite side of them as the wind, but as the snow batters against them. The music in this episode would have been really cool, with lots of just kind of ambient kind of. If you guys saw like the latest season of Clone Wars, there was the second to last episode after they had the Mandalore battle. They won the battle. They reclaimed Mandalore, but then in the next episode, the whole beginning, it wasn't like victory music. Yeah, we won Mandalore. Da, 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 da. The whole beginning was just this kind of like drone. This kind of, and that set like such a good tone. Like that kind of vibe was what I would have gone for with that. Like you feel this underscore of music just constantly kind of like something's not right, something bad's going to be happening later. But as they're crossing, we get a little bit of dynamic kind of between the Sen and Rhea relationship a bit. Greg's, this is why I was saying Greg and Sen have a nice kind of dynamic. Greg's just kind of Sen's like his bro. He's the Garrus to his Commander Shepard. He's the Waka to his I was going to say Titus, but everyone says Titus, and that always gets me. But they're like the cool characters, the cool dynamic, the cool duo. And he's all like, "Yo, man, how'd it go? Did you get to talk to Rhea and stuff?" And then as that's happening, we also see a little bit of where's Denny? Because Denny also kind of has feelings for Abigail, and that would have been teased a bit. So then I wanted people to kind of catch on that and be like, "Oh, hey, I bet Denny's got feeling for Abigail. I bet this can make a ship thing happening." And then of course he died this episode, so kind of start making you think maybe there's something going there before it all happens. So they decide to go in the blizzard because they're just kind of in a hurry. They don't want anything to get out. They get to Frostburn again. So they arrive at this city. So now we're at the top. They make it across the snow flats all the way up to Frostburn. Again, the wind is just, blowing. It's a complete blizzard. They're barely seeing. Again, just loud noises. All the voice lines here, I made sure they're all like yelling quite loud. That way it'd be over the sound of the winds and the kind of musical drones. And again, you can see all these houses were built. We kind of built them with like the geography in mind. The slopes on this side are usually like quite like long, shallow. On this side it's a little steeper. You'll see these houses like that, where it's got these kind of smooth angle and it kind of sharply drops down. That way these snow and the winds will kind of smoothly blow up and over, and it won't like kind of keep much snow build up. And then on this side it drops down. And on this side, because the winds pretty much never blow the other way, they're always blowing north here, which is why it's Northwind. On this side, it's actually not too bad. Like, you have this area now where you can make little homes. These are all Calem's interiors. Very nice interiors here. For a place way out here, they got some nice place. Anyways, they get here, but then they realize, they need to get to Gale Point, and the blizzard's crazy. So then they realize they're going to split up. Most of them are going to stay here, like go in like houses for shelter and kind of wait some of the blizzard out a bit. And then they're going to send Rhea, Tidesinger, and Sen across the thing, because Sen has his shield bubble that they can use to kind of withstand some of the temperatures, which would have been just freezing temperatures. So then there's a really cool, and then again another dramatic kind of scene. This whole episode is full of these like tense kind of dramatic. I think the blizzard helped a lot, having this just ongoing blizzard, just very low visibility and just wind going everywhere. They're going across. He's using his song, which would have been visually really cool, seeing him like in the blizzard holding his shield song up, and Tidesinger and Rhea are kind of trying to stay in it. And they're able to go, and it also shows that Sen's been getting stronger with the songs, between the seasons. But he makes it almost all the way there and doesn't quite get all the way there before he starts just, again showing these songs have a big strain. So he gets pretty close, and then he starts not making it. Right when they get around, here they start seeing the thing. His songs have just drained all his energy out. And so then he finally just collapses again. But then Rhea and Tidesinger able to like get him the rest of the way. And also we see good old Tidesinger using, like, Tidesinger is very kind of selfless. He's the one who's kind of taking it, even trying to help Rhea, trying to help Sen. He's carrying Sen and kind of defending Rhea, showing Tidesinger he is this kind of leader character who will like look out for people more than himself. So they do barely make it across. They work their way into here. What is this? Oh, it's a boat design. Someone looked like was starting some boat idea. There is a tiny little house here. What is this? That's a little water area. Yeah, that's right. Get some water down there. Where a Galatian lives. But so they come in, they get into this area. Nice little interior as well. They come in, they kind of set them down on like the carpet. And then they're kind of looking around, and then the Galatian comes out. We finally meet the first Galatian who speaks. And the Galatian, you see the Galatians are very they hardly say anything. He keeps talking, and the Galatian just kind of remains silently and kind of helps out, and he goes over and puts like the fire on, and then doesn't really speak much. He's just very... the Galatians were, they live so long, they're just very kind of slow and little to say. They don't really they're not chatty and stuff. And then we get more little Sen and Rhea kind of bonding moments. Sen, there wasn't much of that. We see a little bit of that in like the very beginning with episode 2 of season 1. Then we don't really see them have much like interaction. So I wanted to get some nice moments with them again, which is why we had earlier. They get to do their sword training again, kind of like the good old days, and kind of practice with each other. So we see they're still kind of good friends. Then here, we get a little more of the kind of semi-romantic kind of stuff of Sen like kind of waking back up and Rhea looking after him. Rhea still does care for him, even though there's all this like war stuff going on, and they don't really have time for a full relationship or anything. Then we get some nice kind of philosophy here between the Galatian and Tidesinger. Get to learn a bit about the Galatians. I'm just kind of rereading this because it's been a while. Again, he's always calling him Ingressus, but then here he switched to Deathsinger intentionally. Like if you notice, it's like, oh, Ingressus, blah blah blah. Maybe Ingressus, something, and then he says no, the Deathsinger abandoned peace long ago. Now he's talking about the Deathsinger specifically, the one who's been killing everyone. And then he started getting, and again we're getting some more kind of tension, like, because he mentioned earlier, like, he's like, when Gallius was talking to him, he was like, I don't know if I'm going to kill him, and Gallius was like, oh, you got to, because I don't know who else is going to be able to. And then here, again, he's like, do you wish to kill him? I'll do what I must, but not like, yeah, I want to get rid of him, I want to kill him, because he's still kind of hoping he could maybe like turn him back or something. Let me get another drink. Excuse me. Then night happens, and then they wake back up, and then the storm will have kind of passed a little bit. Not fully, the storm's not gone, it's just kind of in like a break between, like, there's a big bit of blizzard kind of pushes through, and there's another one coming kind of behind it. But I wanted them to have a nice little break. And again, this is that kind of what I was saying with the kind of rise and fall of tension this episode. We had that big tense stuff of they going across in the storm, barely making it, Sen's kind of knocked out at the end. But then we get, like, the conversation, and then we wake up, and then it's like the next day, and it's pretty. They got the Prime song, they got it. Really pretty views, nice. I've had a lot of these nice, like, wide shots of, like, just the characters kind of standing in the snow. Really pretty skyboxes of, again, skyboxes that I probably never would have been able to achieve. So maybe it's better that we didn't do the season, but the idea of having these, by this season, I wanted to have fully animated skyboxes where I could have, like, the clouds actually moving and create, like, storm fronts on the sky and have them kind of slowly moving and get, like, the sun kind of breaking through. But having then Abigail and Denny just kind of standing out here looking across the vast snow, almost kind of like the Interstellar vibes at times, where it's just these big, vast worlds they're standing in, and you get this kind of moment of them kind of admiring it. Initially, this line here was very, Denny was like, I've always wanted to see Northwind, blah, blah, blah. And then Denny was going to be, and then Abigail has this thing like, oh, we've seen all these things we've never imagined. And then Denny was going to be like, I'm glad I've been able to have these adventures with you, Abigail. And it was so on the nose, like, oh, he's dead. So then we'd changed that. We had Abigail kind of be the one to say a bit about this, like, we could do all these crazy things. But then we turned it into, again, like a kind of little joke. He's like, oh, I suppose you got that warm soup. Then he pulls out, it's a frozen little, like, ice block of soup comes out. So, that time was me hitting disconnect. But, again, trying to just, like, work in just a bit of comedy this episode. Not like, sitcom comedy, but the kind of comedy that's just makes you smile, makes you kind of laugh. Because you see these moments and you get those contrasts. And to me, I've always felt like the best storytelling always seems to be about contrast. Whether it's like contrasting two characters and having them work together, contrasting a really happy scene followed by a really dramatic scene. You look at something like the Red Wedding from Game of Thrones, it's like, it's a wedding. It's about the happiest kind of thing you can have. They're getting married. The girl, the wife is even talking about, like, their kid that they're going to raise. So you get to this, like, absolute up, positive, happy thing, and then you follow it with, like, the murder and everyone dies and they're all killed and during the wedding, and that was so much more dramatic than if they had just, been having a break time, having lunch, and then they get killed. That wouldn't have been like, it would have just been like, oh, they just got killed, that was weird. But having it, like, contrasted with that wedding first. So again, here it's like you get that kind of funny moments, and then of course they're about ready to leave, and then back to Glacians, or so they're down here, and now the guys are coming out of the top over here, and the same thing, they kind of step out and they get the nice views of the area, pretty views, and then they're about to leave, and then Abigail's getting up in the luna, and then the tone starts shifting. She starts looking up back into the Northwind, or into, like, the snow flats, and she starts seeing, like over there it's a little more blizzardy, and the winds are over there, it's kind of clear on this bit, and then as she starts looking into the blizzard, this big, like, line of skeletons and wither skeletons, and withers starts to, like, fade through this kind of the misty, thing, which would have been another really cool trailer shot, seeing this kind of wide angle. You don't see anything, it kind of holds, and you start seeing all these little shapes forming. The music starts really picking up now. You start seeing this big, strike force was sent out to take out the Knights of Ardonia stuff here. So then they realize, we can't just fly away. We gotta take care of the withers and stuff. So then they all start getting ready. And this was the thing. I had to kind of work in a way, like, why couldn't they just get on the dragon, grab the thing, and fly off? I was saying that it was like the withers were, they wouldn't be able to, like, mount up and get right on the dragons while the withers were, like, blasting them. which was a little contrived, but I thought it made sense. Withers are pretty strong. They have pretty strong blasts and stuff. You can't just be like slowly mounting a dragon, trying to ride off with a bunch of people while Withers attacking. So the dragons deal with that. Then the Knights of Ardonia would have all like, well, the ones that were here: Abigail, Denny, Hubris, and Greg, all been kind of lined up. Then there have been these really cool shots of like really wide angles. There's like them all on one side of the screen, the big army coming on the left. The music's really picking up. It's getting really intense. They're getting ready for the battle. Greg's getting ready. Greg's like in his cool, new form. He's all getting ready. He pulls out Soulseeker, splits the blade. I just whacked the mic again, sorry. Kind of like almost like get some of those shots like in first Avengers where the camera's like moving across them all, getting ready. This is like one of the big fights I've been looking forward to, and probably viewers have as well, like just focusing on main characters versus the enemy and the Death Singer and stuff. But then on the other side, they start realizing that they're here, and then like they start seeing the storm or something. I forgot exactly why they didn't see it quite at first. The storm kind of starts coming through a little bit, and then in the storm, there's going to be a bit where they're around here, and they're kind of walking back, and they see like there's a big storm that's already there. They had already engaged in battle or something. Or no, it was the dragons had engaged the Withers in the battle. So as they're walking, they see this big storm, and then they start seeing these like flashes in the storm. And they're like, that's weird. It's not like lightning. It's like purple and white and these different colors. And like they start seeing these flashes in the storm, and then they see like one of the bright flashes lights up, and then like in the cloud you would see like the silhouettes all appear at once, like the light would have been behind them. So that effect like when lightning strikes and suddenly reveals like something in the cloud. That was going to be the idea here, and suddenly you see, and then they'd realize that. Another very cool trailer shot, and again another cool visual effect that I probably wouldn't have been able to figure out anyway in Blender, but you can imagine it being very cool. So then they're like, oh crap, let's hurry. So they start hurrying. That they're about, then back on the other side, they realize like they're all getting ready for the fight, because on the ground forces they haven't quite converged yet. They realize like, we're not going to be able to hold them off at all. We're going to have to kind of back up and try to at least reunite with them. So I think then they realize, okay, they're going to back up, fall back to the shore, fall back as much as they can, and then that just gives them a little more time. Then... oh, no, they had engaged. Never mind. Take it back. They actually had engaged the battle. They had been engaging some of the foot soldiers, but then they start realizing they're just getting overwhelmed, so they start falling back. So now they're on the retreat. They were trying to hold the line kind of here. Then they realize like let's fall back and hold the line back as far as we can and kind of retreat. And then as they're falling back, so again like another kind of contrast in. We get another contrast in the kind of victories, then defeats, victories and defeats. They had a little bit of like they're getting ready, then they start fighting, then they start having the defeat, and they start falling back. Things are looking bad, and then the lightning strikes, and this is kind of weird, like strange lightning strikes happening. The weird energy, and then the storm's getting worse. That wasn't the storm, and then the lightning strikes. Herobrine comes out of the lightning. This is where we first get the real opportunity for Herobrine. He had a little bit of stuff in Meridian. He would have had some cool Meridian bits fighting in Meridian, but this is like going up against a main character, seeing Herobrine versus Death Singer, using all the lightning abilities coming out of lightning in the blizzard. Every time his lightning strikes, it lights up the blizzards and clouds. So then Herobrine shows up and then kind of helps slow the Death Singer and stuff as he's fighting him. But we also get to see Death Singer, he's got songs. Herobrine may have lightning. Then Herobrine, lines up. Yeah, and they all kind of line up, and so then we got them all fighting again. Cool character moments. Sorry, I'm spending a long time in this episode. This was the one I was just looking forward to the absolute most. It was just full of all these. It's just the main characters, a lot of action, a lot of tensity, a lot of. It's like in season 1 you had like Thalias versus Tigran, and then Sandaria. You had Tide Singer versus Death Singer at the end. This episode is basically that, but on steroids. It's like Death Singer versus Herobrine. Tide Singer versus Death Singer at the end. Rhea taking the prime songs at the end. The big battles of stuff going on. Character deaths. Anyway, I'll get to that in a moment. I'm just fanboying over my own series. So they fight. They start falling back. I think I scrolled over a bit of stuff. Eventually they get there. And Where's Tidesinger? When did Tidesinger show up? Yeah, Deathsinger has the Mobilium Prime, so we've been using it a bunch. Okay, so before this stuff happened, there's a bit where Herobrine actually gets sliced or something. Deathsinger actually gets a hit on Herobrine. And there's this kind of weird pause moment where everything kind of stops. It's like, oh, what just happened? Because Herobrine seems like this just deity, this legend, this god, this immortal. But there's a bit where he even mentioned Hubris mentions this earlier, where it's like, the idea I thought was cool with Herobrine is that he's from this other dimension, other realm, other world. Who knows what happened to him and what brought him there. And in that world, he's like immortal. He can live forever. And he can return to this world, and he uses lightning, gets summoned or whatever, and comes here. But when he's in this world, while he has a lot of his powers from his world, he's mortal here. So there's this bit where he's fighting, you kind of forget about that. You just think, oh, he's just a legend. And then he sees he's kind of weakening, and back, like the longer he's here, the kind of more mortal he becomes, and he gets this slice. And this was the first time we actually would have shown. I wanted to show blood. Would have had to show blood. Obviously, it would be Minecraft. It wouldn't have been super graphic. But I like the idea of everything kind of stops. The blizzard slows down. Everything's really kind of pausing in on what just happened, and then you see a little red drop land in the snow, and it kind of soaks in a little red. And everyone's like, "What the?" Herobrine actually has an injury. Deathsinger takes advantage of that, charges him, and of course, then Herobrine had to retreat. Goes and uses lightning, vanishes. So again, then now we're back on now things are going bad again. Yeah, so that happened before the Tidesinger and Rhea and Sen kind of came back across. So then we get things are going bad again. Things go back down. It's looking bad for the main characters. They're looking worried. And then Deathsinger's about to return fighting the 4 knights. Then he sees, instead of the 4 knights there, Tidesinger standing there. Oh, it says sword drawn. That's before we changed it to the staff. He was going to have a sword before we realized the staff worked better. And that was a cool moment. So now it's like this has been the fight that's been kind of expected, the Tidesinger versus Deathsinger fight, V2. We kind of had the one at the end of season 1. They fight very briefly in the bit at Solomon's house in season 2, episode 9. I didn't see that one too much as like a big duel. It was kind of like a surprise. Solomon betrayed them. They fight very briefly. But this is like the fight. This is now they're in the snow. You get to hear the Deathsinger theme. Everything seems very slowed down. Again, the blizzard's like just in slow motion, almost as they're just kind of music's droning on and they're having their lines. And then the Deathsinger's all like, give me the prime songs. Let's just end this. And now you'll see he was kind of right. He just wanted the prime songs, and they probably could have ended it if you just given it to him. But of course, you don't quite know at the time. Then there's this bit where he pulls the Gressium Prime out, the one he'd always wanted. Everything kind of slows and the theme plays. The Deathsinger's theme kind of goes, and you think, oh, is he going to give it to him? So then he tosses it. Oh, is he going to give it to him? And then it goes, Deathsinger reaches for everything that goes over his head. Rhea catches it on the other side, and then Rhea pockets it and gets ready. So then Tidesinger, to the end, didn't trust him, didn't want to give it to him, didn't really believe in him anymore. And then that's why this final line made sense. This kind of is what finally explains the whole thing about the wording is like, I wouldn't have harmed you in Gressus, the person I grew up with, the person I knew. But the Deathsinger you become, I'll kill you if I have to. And in goes their fight. So then their fight happens, and now the Blizzard's in full rage. Deathsinger and Tidesinger are having their battle. Everyone else in the background, now Sen and Rhea are there, so it's kind of helping with the other stuff. Then we're around then the Withers die. Some of the stuff I'm just explaining from the script, you probably don't really need to hear. I'm just kind of re-experiencing and re-enjoying it myself again. Anyway, and then there's a bit when they're about to go, because the Withers are killed, and then Sen finally sees a Voltaris with his markings, his own markings. And although he might not have noticed, and the viewer might not have noticed what's going on quite yet, the other Voltaris will have this very Sen-like voice, being like, is that you, brother? Because it would have been Tom Aglio. Tom actually did voice these characters already. I have voice recordings of Delphius and Almeric. So then it was like, oh snap, he finally has a lead on where he's from, who he is that his brother's Voltaris? Wait, what does this mean? Oh snap. Meanwhile, Tidesinger's fighting, Deathsinger's fighting, and then suddenly this was another scene that I didn't hear comments about this, but I expected I would have at least. I bet if you read this scene, it probably would have seemed, again, very underwhelming for Tidesinger's death. Much more so than Tigrin's, honestly. I'm actually surprised this wasn't the one people were discussing. I heard a lot more about Tigrin than I did this one. This one, script-wise, seems very lame when Tidesinger dies here. But again, it's the execution that would have worked. If you remember, like, Season 1's execution, all these dramatic moments, trust that it would have been very cool, and that this moment was very, like, you were supposed to be a bit, like, surprised and be like, wait, what? Did that just happen? Just like the Deathsinger was. And because they're fighting, you're expecting, this cool, like, battle, they're fighting. Is there going to be some dramatic moment? Is one of them going to live and escape? Or are they both going to live and, one of them has to retreat and escape? And who's going to be the one to retreat? But no, one of them manages to actually kill the other one right here in this battle. Mid-season, and there's still 5 episodes to go. And then the Tidesinger is killed. And you're kind of almost not really supposed to expect that either of them were going to die. You're kind of thinking, okay, these are the 2 main villains. They'll resolve their thing in episode 10 at the end of the season. They'll have their final fight, and then just, they were fighting. It made sense that one of them managed to kill the other, but then the Deathsinger wasn't also really expecting him to die just now in this bit. So Deathsinger, he does this attack, killing him, doesn't quite realize it, turns around, then there's this weird pause where everything's... You see the Tidesinger just kind of standing there looking away, like, holding himself. Then he just kind of falls forward, and there's this kind of, like, shock. He's Deathsinger's shocked, like, not really. He was fighting him, but he wasn't really thinking he'd kill him right then. Then the Tidesinger falls down dead. Everyone else kind of sees this, like, oh crap, we gotta go. Rhea's trying to get Sen to come. Oh god, that's going to be taken out of context. And then Sen's like, no, I want to go with my friend, my brother, and find out where I'm from. And then we get to see actually a cool little bit. I like this little addition where Sen puts his shield up, shielding him from Rhea. So there's a little bit of kind of, no, this is something I want to do. This is something I need to find out. So then he lets himself get captured to learn where he's from. That's what he's always wanted to know, what he's always kind of haunted him. And seeing that it was Voltaris, he just had to know. So then the rest of them start going. The rest of them start flying off. Right as the rest of them start flying off, right, a stray arrow from an archer hits Denny, knocks him off. And then Thunderdome starts slowing down. Then meanwhile Denny's like getting back up, and he sees like the sword, the one his brother John had given him, the kind of symbolic weapon of his given to him, and he sees it in the snow. He starts getting back up. He starts walking towards it. Another arrow hits him. Starts falling down again. And then after the second one, like you would have seen his armor, the lights on his armor like flicker and turn off. And this is what I think I mentioned this in the last commentary about how the Enderite armor kind of glows and then becomes powered. So now without it glowing, it's not powered. It's not really even very strong anymore. Then he gets the sword, he pulls it up, gets the sword holding it, and then the third arrow goes through him. And then it's quiet. Thunderdome roars, burns all the wither skeletons, and then Denny kind of falls down dead. And then Thunderdome grabs him, and then this one, they kind of Sen gets surrounded. So then Sen's being surrounded. Deathsinger goes over to Tidesinger's body and kind of holds it a little bit, which I didn't really mention too much here, but it was like Deathsinger was, in shock. He's getting kind of almost emotional now. Like, he didn't like Tidesinger standing up against him either, but they were friends. Tidesinger did grow up with Achillean and stuff, and they had been really good. They mentioned how he was like a brother to him, kind of thing. They were raised together. They spent the most time together growing up. So he's also kind of, surprised, shocked, and even saddened at what he just did. And then the dragons flying off, where they just fly like past the camera in the snow, and the camera just kind of held slowly backed up from the battle as the blizzard just slowly makes the whole screen go white, and there would have been no music, just the wind still blowing, and the credits would have started coming in. You'd see the text directed by. You'd see the end cards come in. The snow just keeps blowing. The episode ends. Sorry, I'm trying to get in the mood here. That was the vibe. The vibe I was going for with that one was that it was unlike all the other episodes. All the other episodes had a bit of music. Some little music drone. Episode 6 had that kind of like pause, and the music kind of came in. It went black, and then the music came in. But this one would have just been nothing. Just constant wind for the whole outro. Because to me, this was that episode. This was the episode that was just the big shocker, the big everything went down, all the dramatic moments happened, everything kind of went, Herobrine had escaped, Sen got captured, Tidesinger died, Denny died. They did manage to get the Prime Song, so yeah, big ending, big cool thing. That was what I spent more time on that one than like the first 4 episodes. Just because it was my favorite. That's what I want to talk about the most. Let's zoom through the rest. There's not too much beyond this point, other than just kind of right near the end, some stuff. Lucan and Nika sneak back in. They used the necromancers had been burrowing all those tunnels. Remember how I said they burrowed tunnels under Fort Zuka to get into Fort Zuka? They had all those tunnels. And because Lucan and Nika had been, involved in that war, they had been investigating them even prior to that war. They had the experience. This is actually the tunnel. I'm flying here right now. This was the tunnel they would have used. I made this little tunnel that comes out right below Flora. Then they would have worked their way up. I think this was the bit where they would have bumped into Alec here. But because they had that experience, that allowed them to be... I thought it made sense that they'd be the ones to kind of have this advantage and be able to kind of sneak back in. Lucan still has the Wither Skull. He can still use that to kind of control the undead down there. So they come through. They bump into Alec. We see Alec again, and Alec is, he's like, man, you gotta just deal with this now. This is the way things are now. But at the same time, you did see that he was like trying to help people when there were like people being kind of abused and stuff. But he also doesn't want them to get involved, and he doesn't want it to get worse, but he does want to help. So then we had this character called the Shadow, this character who's been like kind of planning some kind of revolution against them. So they go up here, and then instead of seeing like the Shadow, they see Natsuki sitting up there, the chronicler. She wasn't killed, she was left here. So she's just also a prisoner in Flora. And that's something I should also mention. One thing that I wanted to kind of mention was in Season 3, so the Nether takeover. They take over the overworld, and the main thing they were doing, they were kind of I mentioned a few times in the script, they were rounding up the different cities, bringing them to capital cities. That was mostly just because they didn't have a huge army. They didn't want to be spread so thin, like lots of armies on every single city. So they'd occupy the main cities. Then once they were in the main city, it's easy to just, put up defenses. The cities themselves are usually designed with like walls around them, like Oakendale or something. So it's easy for the Nether to defend the city, keep the people inside. Then they would send small teams out. The Nether would send teams out to other cities, capture them, bring the people back to the cities. That way it was easy to hold them. But it's important to note that like the Nether weren't going around just like killing everyone. They didn't want to live in the overworld, and they also didn't really care to like, eliminate the overworld. They mostly just wanted, one of the reasons they use resources. I think I mentioned that Nether is like very low on lots of resources, so they come to the overworld to like get some resources in the overworld, also to get workers. They did bring some people in the overworld to like work in the Nether and like some of the more dangerous areas. I think they had a lot of Magnerites like working and stuff, but they're not really like they're not just going around. I'm not a bad guy, just kill all the humans. They claimed Flora and they're kind of occupying it, but it's more of like a kind of Half-Life 2 kind of City 17 kind of thing, where they're controlling it, they're occupying it, but they don't need to kill everyone. Some of the people here, some of them are still like doing good work for them. Like there's a bit where they see I almost said Marcus, and Marcus is like doing blacksmithing work for them and stuff. So they're still taking advantage of them rather than just getting rid of them. Anyway, back up to Natsuki. Somewhere up in I call it the Sunset Topiary, which is a good opportunity to see these really cool upper houses. I absolutely love the upper district in Flora. Is so cool. If you're ever on the world, come to these upper houses with like shaders on. It's super pretty just to be like, because everything else in Flora is kind of dark. You get a lot of shade from all the leaves, but then you start coming up and the sun starts coming through nicely. You get all these houses where you can like come outside, go to the balconies, and you just get these really pretty views. Come up top, the sun's coming out, really nice. This is the kind of area that, if this world was like a real world, I'd love hanging out in these little houses. Anyway, so they were up here, kind of where it was a little further away from all like the Nether guards and stuff, and you see Natsuki and you think, oh, surely Natsuki's not like the shadow, so where's the shadow? And then you finally realize when after she kind of checks on him a bit, that she was the shadow, which is interesting because we briefly mentioned a bit in season 2 about her and how she became a chronicler, and she wasn't 100% in on this whole like I want to be a chronicler thing. She just kind of did it because it was a good opportunity for her to kind of do the things she wanted to do. So she's kind of like a unconventional chronicler who's now getting involved when you're not really supposed to. But then there's a bit here where it's like Nika and it's like, so who's the shadow? And Natsuki's trying to give hints without just saying it. And they're all just sitting there with these blank face because they're just not getting it. I'm the chronicler. Oh, you're the shadow? Yes. You know. Sorry, I'm laughing at my own script. I haven't read a lot of this stuff in a long time, so a lot of this is like refreshing me. So she's the shadow. They're gonna help the shadow. They go back to the Knights of Ardonia hideout again. It's really small now. There's few people there, even less people there. People staying around. Val's here this time. She was there last time, but she didn't get to go to the battle at the top. They learn a bit about what happened, and now Rhea's saying how this is the bit where Rhea's saying, I'll take the Prime songs. It's our only option now. We tried hiding it from them, but we've kind of lost everything now. We have to use the Prime songs, even though it's risky. If I die, the Death Singer gets all the Prime songs, but that's what we're going to do. So then she's like, I'm going to go to the first shrine. I'm going to go learn to wield these Prime songs and become, like, basically, kind of become the new Tide Singer. Although it's not a perfect example because the Tide Singer didn't use Prime songs, but other than that, she has kind of become the Tide Singer now that the Tide Singer's gone. And again here, this is a very Tide Singer kind of thing to do, like, let them know, let everyone know that Knights of Ardonia aren't defeated. Everyone in this world now is Knights of Ardonia against the stuff. There's a bit where Abigail's outside and Denny got buried, and then the Thunderdome flies away, having lost his master. Thunderdome's just kind of sad. We also just didn't quite know what to do with him in the story, so he flies back to the end, and then Abigail also kind of feeling like everything was kind of lost, flies away to get some alone time to herself. Back in Flora, in one of the... actually, I think there was a place for this. I think we had a few little, like, taverns. Because I'm really lost. Where am I? Oh, here we go. I think we're going to use this one. Yeah, it was gonna be this one. This was the one that Marcus and Lucan meet back up, and they're trying. So now they're slowly recruiting they're recruiting people to get involved. So when the time comes, they can have this kind of specialized resistance against them, try to liberate themselves. And that was also part of the focus of this season, was that, like, the beginning, all the big armies come together trying to liberate all the cities, and they do liberate Meridian, but then they fail at Flora. They have to fall back. They do maintain Meridian. They do maintain Carthan, thanks to Igneous in season 2 and stuff, and also the fact that Carthan had their beacon off. But then the idea was that, like, these big armies weren't always the ones to liberate them, and that was kind of Lucan and Nika's story. Some people thought their story was a little distant, which it absolutely was supposed to be. That was the story. We wanted to have at least one story that wasn't, like, just fully integrated in all the main stuff involving songs and Voltars. It was a little bit different, but in the end, when the Nether took over, it was important to have their story as the one that kind of helps all the people kind of have their own revolutions and stuff. So they talk a bit. I'm going to start skimming through a bunch of the stuff. They finally meet Scorch. We get a bit more Scorch. Just kind of introduced a bit. I had to actually... This was a little on nose. Again, all this stuff is going to be rewritten. He just has to... He's like, my name is Scorch. And I just want to get his name in there somehow. But that was probably going to be rewritten a bit. The Nether dialogue in general is going to be rewritten. If you notice that first scene when Volcanus was talking to Pythis, the very first time I went back to earlier, Volcanus has this very, like, almost poetic way of speaking. He's very, Is that really episode 1? Yeah, Volcanus is very, like, he who speaks little hears much, and he who watches from afar, he seems very like well spoken and stuff. And then that just kind of dropped off. I kind of just didn't really write so much of that. That was going to be edited. We would have gone back and rewritten a lot of the Natharan dialogue, kept Volcanus a little more, stuff like that. So Scorch has been kind of rewritten. Scorch goes in, intimidates them. I think ends up actually kills the baker guy in there because he wasn't really explaining. He wasn't talking, and then he did talk, and then he still killed him anyway, showing that Scorch is pretty ruined, and showing also that this is a really dangerous place to be a difficult revolution. And then Abigail. Oh, Heart of Ardonia. We finally get to see the Heart of Ardonia. Yeah, this would have been a cool opportunity to have. Actually, there's where spawn works. Abigail would have flown to the heart. It would have been a cool moment just to. I realized this was such a cool set we hardly ever saw. Someone's idea someone's idea to have this scene take place here with Luna and Abigail way up on one of these things with the sun that like sun's kind of setting and they're just way up here. Would have been really pretty having this scene. And then Abigail's kind of looking at the crown, wondering once again, like if she basically lost everyone at this point. Denny's dead. Alistair, betrayed them, had to die. Saxon Trevor got captured, so now she's completely alone, as far as the Internights go. But then she has this moment where she sets the crown down, as in like, I don't need to be this queen or the Ender Queen or whatever. That was all the stuff kind of in season 2 about like you got to become the Ender Queen. But then she's like, it's not about like being the Ender Queen or anything. It's just about just being yourself, looking after your friends, working for. So that sets that aside to kind of a little symbolic about that. But then the next morning, something happened where she wakes back up, and then when she's about to throw away the Eye of the Ender or something to go then try to find them and stuff, she's like, let's go find Saxon Trevor. But then she sees that the Eye of the Ender is glowing. So then she. There's a bit of thing with the Nether Star here that I remember being really confusing. That was the thing that didn't really make a whole bunch of sense. I think Badger and I had a lot of discussion about that, or Sam and I, or maybe all of us, trying to find out a good way to like have all that contact thing happen. Because we needed a way that like they would like get back in contact. So we had this weird thing with the Nether Star, but I thought it was kind of cool. A good way to get use of a Nether Star happening. So they fly back to Bangor. Nice, cool final shot of them arriving at Bangor. And it would have been a really cool shot at Bangor with like the lighting coming behind Luna. Luna's kind of staying there with the wings like up, and Volcanus is down below, and they're gonna go back up and they're gonna start working together finally. Then the episode ends, so now you're kind of wondering like, oh cool, we get to see Nether and Ender stuff working together. Episode 7 opens up with a bit of now we get to see the backstory kind of on when Sen was given to Thalius, and it was just this random Sandaris guy who, if you look on the map again. Not the crop map. Not that map. Okay. There we go. If you look on the map, Sandaria, the northern Sandaria stuff is kind of right on the edge of the mountains. I imagined a lot of the Voltaris had been hiding in this mountain range because no one really lives here at all. So I imagine this isn't explained in the story at all, but for those who are watching the commentary, the way I saw this whole thing happening was that there's a village along here, some Sandaris here. One of the Sandaris must have randomly, like when, probably when he was a kid or something, when he was younger, was kind of traveling into the woods like he shouldn't, went into the mountains, ran into like one of the Voltaris people, probably ran into a young female Voltaris. I imagine they kind of, they were both probably younger, didn't immediately want to kill each other or anything, but then they probably were interested in each other. They were like, oh, that's cool, you're a Voltaris, and no, I'm not going to hurt you. I imagine that then they started kind of meeting up. The Sandaris guy probably came and was probably like helping them a bit. They probably fell in love, and then they had kids, but then, because obviously the female one had the kids with the Voltaris, and then they realized like, oh, like we want to get these Voltaris, we want to get these kids out of here. We don't want to have them raised as Voltaris, because then they're gonna live the horrible life in the snow with nothing and stuff. But the Voltaris female being Voltaris. She's not going to be able to be initiated back into the other clan masters aren't going to initiate her or anything, so she was going to be stuck there. So the idea was they were going to try to take the kids while they were still uninitiated, give them to the Sandaris guy, and then he was going to try to, you know, just find them any new home that wasn't the Voltaris would have been a better life for the kids. So that was the whole kind of story behind the Deltheus, Almerac, and Sen. Sen was the first one to get smuggled down, and then while they're waiting for the next kid to come down, that's when then they see Voltaris on the horizon or something, and then they realize, oh crap, you know, the wife or whatever must have been found out. She must have been stopped, and now the Voltaris are coming to kind of stop this kind of scene from happening. I don't really have a set for this. There's nothing really to show. It's just kind of some random place around I probably would have detailed up some little area along the edge of the forest or something. So then, but then Thalius already was holding Sen, and then they get attacked. This kind of attack happens. The Sandaris father guy ends up actually getting killed here in the attack. Thalius has to kind of hurry and escape. And at first you see Thalius is, you know, he's mortified. He's like, oh, this is Voltaris. I'm here to hunt Voltaris. I've always been hunting Voltaris and stuff. But then we do see that although he hates Voltaris and he always hunts them, this is the one time where he does, you almost think he leaves it. I think there's a bit where he tries to hand it, and the explosion happens. You don't quite see what happens. You almost think Thalius just ran off and left the kid. But then when they ride into view, then we see Thalius look down and he's holding the kid. So he did take the kid. And kind of, when the time came down to it, when it was he's getting attacked, he did still, his heart still was in the right place. He didn't know this innocent kid didn't deserve to just go back to that. So he took the kid, and then he rides off. Thalius rides off, and that's where he would have then given it to Sivian a little later or something. And then not. So Thalius knew, obviously, that he was Voltaris. He knew that whole story, but didn't want to tell him, didn't want to tell anyone. He never told anybody the story. I say Sen's theme starts playing, which is interesting, because we never actually really made a Sen theme, so I don't know what that would have been. Then we see Hailstone! Sorry, Hailstone's a really cool build, and we hardly ever see Hailstone in the series. It's Season 3, we're finally getting to see some Hailstone. It's near the end of the series. Hailstone's awesome. This was Mr. TNT, who really built almost all of this. This build is insane, and that still boggles my mind how this all came together. I'm still generating it. A lot of people helped with the interiors. A lot of people helped with some of the walls and the towers and stuff. Some other people might have helped with some of these boats, although a lot of these boats were also TNT. This city is just insane. You can walk around in this thing. There's arches everywhere. There's all these little areas to walk. There's cargo. What does that even say? Yeah, looks like sorry construction. It's crazy how much you can wander around. And there's all these little paths, and they'll take you up, take you down. Anyway, there's a jail somewhere. I don't remember where the jail is at all anymore. I don't even know if I'm going to try to find it. Let me go speed. Find it. I do remember there being little windows. Oh, I think it was right here. Yeah, okay. Somewhere around here, one of these little cells here would have been. We never fully finished these, so the interiors are pretty empty right now because we didn't know exactly which one we were going to use. But this is where the prison was going to be. So Sen would have been in the prison. They let him out. They then take him to see his brothers first. And he gets to meet his brothers. I'm going to go sit on this little spot. There's a little park area outside the tower, I think. That's the tower. I think that's the park. Yeah. It's also pretty seeing Hailstone actually does have a little bit of trees. Because I can't stop flying. How do I go out of fly mode? Oh, there we go. That was weird. So here's a little bit. There's a little park. Nice kind of pretty area. They kind of sit on the benches, on opposite benches, kind of looking at each other talking. Get to meet the brothers. They have the same voice. And we get to see these different, two different kind of ideas of two different brothers that each kind of different feelings towards Sen. One of them is very, sorry, let me just check my, I just randomly was wondering if my OBS was still recording. That would have sucked if it wasn't, but it is, so I'm good. One of the brothers is very, Deltheus is very, I don't know the word, he's very, upset's not the right word. Is salty is really the more. He's very salty that Sen was the one that got to survive and go out and leave the Voltaris, whereas Almrak is a little more passive, a little more kind of happy for Sen. Delphius is just kind of like, yeah, we called you the lucky one and stuff, and like, oh, boo-hoo, it must have been so hard having this stuff, because he had to grow up and all this stuff. Delphius, I think, ends up finally just kind of storming off. And then, let me get a closer look at you. And then we actually see the only character in all of Songs of War, I think, who actually had like a pretty, like a physical disability. He would have been sitting down this whole time, so I would have avoided showing his lower half a bit, but then he gets up, and he kind of has this like walking stick, and he realizes he's missing a leg, which really just shows, like, the point of that was showing really the hardships that these Voltaris had gone through. Someone like his own brother might have gotten like frostbite, might have gotten attacked by some, I was going to say like a mountain lion or something in the mountains, who knows. But we see him, then he kind of slowly walks over and suddenly has this kind of moment of realization. Blah blah. So they talk a little bit about the stuff, and we see, so Sen's half Voltaris, half Sendaris. But as you see with the initiation stuff, it doesn't really matter too much who you are, where you are. Your clan is really just determined by whatever master wants to use the staff on you and initiate you into that clan. So it's not really super bloodline or anything, which is why a lot of times they're all just kind of, everyone's different. It doesn't really matter if you're in the same clan or anything. Sorry, I'm trying to get on top of this. I want to stand on our building. There we go. Okay. They talk, and then Almrak's saying, like, you might be the one to finally kind of unite the clans together again, because you're kind of half Voltaris, but you're also half Sendaris, and you've lived along the Sendaris for a long time and showed that, you're fine. But then Sen's still kind of just surprised about being Voltaris, because, Voltaris killed all his family and stuff, and he's like, oh no, I didn't want to be Voltaris. Which, taking a step back, I should probably mention this, is that I never expected this to be a big, like, oh, shocker, Sen was Voltaris, oh, who knew? It was kind of obvious. Because what is he going to be? It's either going to be one of the other four clans, he's either, he was Sendaris all along, which, okay, I guess. He was one of the other, like, three clans, like, oh, surprise, he was Kaltaris, okay. Or he was like another clan. That could have been interesting, but that's the one I could have seen would have been cool. Like maybe there's a whole other clan that just got eliminated, but why didn't you hear about them? He was a new clan, I don't know. But Voltaris was obviously Voltaris, so it wasn't meant to be so much a surprise, more of a now you know. So now what is this going to mean for Sen? What is it going to mean that he was part Voltaris? How is it going to make him feel? That was more of the kind of point of all this. And there's also we wanted to make sure it wasn't like, oh, he was the son of Deathsinger, he was the son of Tidesinger. No, he's just, his parents were just kind of a random Voltaris and a random Sendaris. I wanted to really avoid the kind of Star Wars-isms of everyone seeming like they're always related. So then they talk a bit, and then he's going to go ahead. He's going to the tower to talk to Deathsinger. Meanwhile, Rhea is now getting to the what I call the first shrine of the Ardoni. It's called First Songs. Let me actually set this one up. It's kind of cool. If you actually I'll go to the Hall of Walls of Time. If you go on the map, way up in this upper area, there's the Walls of Time. This kind of big, like, timeless place where they keep all the records. But there's also this other significant thing. If you keep going, rather than going into the Walls of Time, that's where you come from. If you come from the south, you come to the side. If you keep going, go through there, and fly around to save some time. If you keep going, there's this kind of equivalent of an oasis, but for the snow. If you come around this corner, it's really pretty. Suddenly, like, the mountains kind of shield the area from being quite as cold, and it kind of opens up, and there's this really pretty area with, like, the custom trees kind of hanging down, a lot of the alliums here, a lot of ice kind of frozen over, little frozen ice rivers. And the idea was this was the first shrine the Ardonia ever used to, like, learn to wield the songs, like, eons ago. So it holds a lot of like historical importance and kind of, I was gonna say, Ardonia aren't really religious, but they're that kind of like spiritual importance and stuff to the Ardoni. So it was a good one to learn to wield the songs using. Basically, I kind of imagine the shrines themselves have a bit of character because this is the oldest and it's like technically kind of like the oldest and the wisest to learn from to wield using this shrine. So she goes all the way here, and also the fact that the Walls of Time's right around the corner, so she can read up on the, songs and prime songs and just all kinds of records on how the prime songs were used and stuff. So that's why she came here to sneak into Northwind to learn to use them. And it's nice because it's in the middle of nowhere. Like, although Hailstone's here, no one lives here other than the Galatians. So she's got this whole area to kind of train and stuff and cool areas. We'll get to that in a little more in just a moment. Also, another random little songs word geology or geography kind of. I guess it's more like biology here, but you may have noticed in the prologue, in a few places, you would have seen glowing alliums. There were a few glowing alliums in the Ardonia arena, and in the place in the prologue where there's that random traveler, and he goes into this little cave. There's like glowing alliums. I imagine alliums is this thing that they like colder kind of climates. That's why you tend to see them. You'll see them a lot more up north in these kind of northern areas, or you'll see them kind of around the heart of Ardonia where there's lots of high altitudes and it gets colder. But the idea I thought was cool is that the alliums, they like the cold, they live in the cold, but they have this, like, they like being real cold. When it's way up in these really cold, almost frozen areas, they'll actually kind of glow to provide themselves a little bit of warmth so they don't like freeze over. So you'll notice the alliums were kind of glowing in all the kind of cold frozen areas or just the further north areas. But when it's not like super cold and not snowy, they don't glow. Idea being, when it comes time to do this scene, we could have had some really nice lighting with the sun kind of coming through. It's kind of the cold air, but then it's kind of a little darker. Maybe it was even nighttime. All the alliums would have been glowing. There would have been pretty little like particles kind of slowly drifting off them, and it would have looked really pretty. That was kind of one of the reasons I thought that having the alliums kind of glow in the cold would have been cool. It literally was to help make this scene eventually look cool because it was such a kind of important scene. She tries using them. Doesn't really work. She tried. The prime songs are just so powerful. It's the first time seeing a new character try wielding one. So far, it's just been like Thalias and Deathsinger. Boopity boppity. Oh, Abigail and Volcanus are heading towards the end. I will show this place. And Portal 2? Yeah. So they arrive at this island. The Eye of the End shows them there is this. I basically needed an end portal that the dragons could fit through, so I had to introduce like a new one. So they land here. There's a big old cave that like dragons can get in. Good old dynamics with. You can already see Luna immediately is not liking Volcanus. Luna doesn't trust Volcanus. Luna is kind of like the sheltering parent that doesn't trust Volcanus with Abigail, and whereas Abigail and Volcanus, in my opinion, by the end, there's a little bit of a kind of chemistry between them, just enough where it's kind of like, oh, I kind of see them as like a little bit of a thing. But then Luna's very like, no, I don't like this guy. I don't trust him. He's a Natharan. I'm an Ender Knight. You're an Ender Knight. But that kind of gets started kind of here with like. She's like, oh, we gotta be careful stuff. And then Luna just throws Volcanus off the edge. And then, not off the edge, Luna throws Volcanus off of Luna. He falls down on the ground like with a thump. And then it's like, oh, what are you doing? So they go through the portal. There's a portal in here. But there's a nice big portal the dragons can fit through. So they go through, they get back, the first time we've seen the end again since Season 1. And sure enough, like a lot of the Encore stuff has kind of fallen back and dried out and it's dead. And a lot of the Endermen I think there's some of the Endermen were like husks. A few Endermen who are no longer glowing are standing lifeless. Yeah, that was kind of creepy. Some of the Endermen have just completely died. Sorry, my water bottle's like humidifying and dripping now. Alright, I'm almost 2 hours in. I'm going to try to race through this a little more. Sandworld's dying. They work in. We see some stuff. Kiki is still with them. So then they find an end chest. Kiki flies through, goes into the Nether. I'll just go warp Nether. Actually, I'm not even sure. It's not. Actually, it's not worth showing it because I don't think there's anything inside. Basically, somewhere in the Nether. God, this shaders are not working with this biome with his world. Somewhere in here, there's this cool like big door we made, and the inside was this big kind of like hidden storage room where they keep basically like their own little vault. We made the door, but I think the inside's empty, so I'm not even going to bother finding it. But so they used the idea was that there's an ender chest was being stored in there amongst all the other things they were keeping in the vault, and because it was so locked and you couldn't get in from the outside, they used the ender chest to fly through, unlock it from the inside. Kiki flies back out the ender, because the idea that the ender chests are all connected, I thought that was a cool way of using the ender chests. So then another little moment where they're like, all right, let's get this over with, and then Luna's about to start flying off before Volcanus even got on. Good old Luna just being the problem. Luke and Nika, they find Eddie's still alive. Next little moment where like they come across and see all the bottles on the floor again, and starts panning up, and sure enough, Eddie's there, sleeping again. And this was actually, we did change this when we were first writing the script. Eddie did die right away. Eddie was dead, but then we realized that some of the commenter people who were reading it and doing the edits and stuff, I think multiple people who were doing the editings were all saying that we were just killing off all the fun characters right away. We killed off Hawken, he's kind of funny and silly, he dies. Here's Eddie, he's kind of fun and silly, he dies. And all the characters are just dying, and it's like, what's the point if everyone dies? So we thought making at least one character survive. Eddie was the one I thought would work well. Some people thought like, oh, no way Eddie would have survived. He didn't fall that far. It is Minecraft, and I don't think like you know, in real life, if you fell like, just 10 blocks, you might kill yourself in real life, break all your bones or something. But in Minecraft, you can fall like at 20-something blocks and be fine. So I always assumed that he didn't die from the fall, was a little injured. And then one of the things I also thought was kind of interesting is that one of the reasons, in my opinion, the zombies didn't like kill him there at the mines and why he was able to survive was he's probably really drunk and probably smelled weird. The zombies probably like thought he was actually dead when he wasn't. So when he woke back up and came to, the zombies were gone and didn't kill him. So then he went out and he went to where was it? The base on mines got attacked. He went back rather than going back here. He went to He went to Arelon. On the map, it's still called Azulton. I'll actually go to Arelon real quick. We weren't going to see Arelon other than very briefly in his little flashback, so he went to Arelon instead and kind of hung out here for a while. So people didn't know he was like one of the survivors or anything. So people thought Luke was the only survivor. He starts telling the story of that though, about how he survived. He went back and he defended the city against countless waves with the help of a snowman army. And I would have actually been like showing this. We would have seen the flashback. And we would have been seeing like him start surviving and makes it to. It was still called Azulton on that one, but it was actually we changed the name to. And then we would have actually seen like the snowman army defending the thing. Like in the flashback, I would have visually showed it as a joke. They would just cut out and been like, yeah, it's Eddie. I don't think that happened. You sure? Yeah. So they recruit him. Next, they recruit Zarya, which is really cool. This is what I was kind of saying earlier about Zarya, how he was cool in Season 3, is that we introduced him briefly in Season 1. He's barely used. He's just kind of a generic kind of evil villain. Season 2, he didn't get much. But now we see, like, now is his real time where Zarya becomes a pretty interesting character, is that he was working for the Necromancers, and the Necromancers were, like, fully defeated. The Necrolord was killed, but the rest of the Necromancers, they didn't all just die. They didn't all just get killed off. So he still kind of believes in what the Necrolord believed in, and we get a bit of reasoning here where he kind of explains why he joined him, about how the Necrolord gave them opportunities when no one else would, and when they had nothing, and he was trying to give them something. So obviously, they're still bad, but it gives a little bit of justification, just at least enough to consider recruiting him. But we have a bit of a kind of, Nika doesn't want to work with them. Nika's been obviously against the Necromancers for years. There's also, we never fully went into in the script why Nika hated the Necromancers, why she went against them so much. Early in the script, or not even the script, it wasn't even in the script, pre-script, when we were brainstorming, we had these different ideas for why Nika was like really against the Necromancers, why she's been hunting them. We had this idea even where she had like a previous lover, and then the Necromancer killed him or something, and then she hated and was on a vengeance, and that was explained why she didn't want to work together with him anymore. But we thought it was a little too, a lot of stories go down that route, so we thought we even if that was the case, we didn't want to specify that. However, now I don't think that necessarily is the case anymore, but that does kind of explain why she's so hesitant to work with people and more with Lone Wolf. But yeah, so she's against necromancers and doesn't really want to recruit them. Then Scorch comes in and interacts with them, which is cool. So we get Scorch and Natharan against Zarya. It's cool seeing Zarya. But then they're like, oh crap, we gotta hurry. Oh. Wait, no, their Scorch is like chasing him, then Zarya escapes. Oh yeah, Zarya uses the cool wither thing to do a little flash of the smoke, and he's gone. This is why it's cool when the necromancers aren't trying to kill you, and then they get to use their cool kind of powers when they're the good guys, which is why I think maybe that's why Zarya seems interesting to me. Okay, Volcanus and them go through the portal. Volcanus now, Luna has to stay behind, she can't fit. But they do start getting worried about what might happen. There is I did have this one set up. I have to turn shaders off so we can actually see what's going on. Boop beep bop, take a drink of water. Excuse me. Gonna let the map generate just for a moment. I don't remember exactly which direction this portal was. I get lost here, honestly. This is a big city. I think it was this way? Yeah, this way, okay. So they go through some random nether portal in the overworld, which now, now that the beacons have been turned off, now they can open a bunch of portals everywhere. So they open a portal, it connects here. Wait, no. No, it doesn't. No, sorry. It connects them randomly to the wilderness, and then they come to this cool view. Where's the view? There it is. So they get to wander through the wilderness a little bit, and then they come to this. I made this specific area for this nice view of the city. This is actually where we see it in that prologue bit, just because it's such a nice vista. We did name the city Nazgard. I forgot we did name it at one point, because in the world on the build server it's just called Nether City or Nether City. We did actually give it a name, which I thought was cool. Nazgard. It's kind of like Nazgul and Asgard combined. Nazgul being kind of villainous stuff, and Asgard seeming like some old ancient city. So they're on the outskirts, and then Volcanus is still kind of like, I need you to keep helping me. And then Volcanus is like, fly back home where it's safe. Come out, go. We're nearly done. So you start wondering, like, oh, maybe he was actually going to betray them or something. As part of his plan. And then cuts back to Flora. Scorch is looking for Itsuki now or something. So they got to quickly hurry with their plan. And they realize the Wither is like one of the key elements, because the Wither's able to control the undead nearby, kind of like the Necro Lord used to do. So they realized if they can... Oh, that was the other thing, yeah, when the Nether showed back up, that their army wasn't that huge, but they were able to use the Withers to kind of control undead to make their army larger. That's why, that's one of their key elements of the Nether army, is they can control the undead and kind of build a slightly large army. So they realize if they take out this Wither, it'll help. Marcus is all kind of involved, they're all kind of here. They're out of time. So that's kind of setting up, oh crap, we're out of time, which sets up then episode 8, which is, I think, where the big Flora stuff happens. Back in the Nether, now back to the point I was. There's that little, this bit. So then they work their way down. I think I do have a, somehow they would have gotten back down here, or at least on one of these things. Maybe, oh no, I think there's more of this one. Yeah, they came around this stuff. So they start walking through here, and then, Volcanus is like, oh, just trust me. Or something, but then and start wondering, like, we're really just walking right in this thing. Sure enough, they walk in, and then like all the Natharans or Wither skeletons, I guess, would have surrounded her, and then Volcanus would have made it seem like it was part of his plan. And then, so at this point, I would have hopefully tried to make it seem to the viewer like, oh snap, Volcanus was against them. Volcanus was a traitor, to make you really think, oh no, what a big cliffhanger ending. Again, with these good cliffhanger endings in season 2 and 3, unlike season 1. Episode 8. This was, I think this was the big old Flora one. This was the episode we wanted to get... because the Flora was the kind of slightly separate story, we didn't want to have the big Flora finale battle in episode 10 with all the other big final battles. So we ended up moving this one early, a little earlier. Had it kind of, I think it's this episode. I'm speaking a little too soon, but I'm pretty sure we wanted to wrap it up a little earlier in episode 8 or something. It might have been 9. I think it's 8. That way, and we could have 10 just be the other stuff, the stuff at Crown Peak, the stuff at the Nether, the stuff with the Death Singer, and then we could have the resolution in 10 and not have all that and have the Flora stuff. The Flora was a kind of separate story anyway, so good to kind of get that wrapped up. First we get the moment with Death Singer and Sen. Back to Hailstone. Spent about 2 hours now on the recording. Actually a little less because I spent about 5 minutes at the beginning doing audio checks, so probably a little less. We're getting pretty close though. It's definitely a lot better pace than last time. I'm going to zoom through again some more. There's a bit here. It was never interior finished. Oh, and then crashed again. We didn't finish this interior at all. It's just empty. Hailstone interiors is actually on the list of things we need to do. But this would have been a nice place. Oh, let me turn the shaders back on. Another nice place in, which one was I using? Dev 7? Another nice place to kind of get some nice lighting here. Yeah, they could have had the nice clear day here in Hailstone. The sun would have been coming through, all these lights, kind of warm. There's going to be a little fireplace. And this is the bit where, Death Singer's like, you can take a seat, but I wish to stand, and get a bit of confrontation between Death Singer and Sen. This is where we really... This was the main opportunity where it gets a little exposition heavy, but we had to just get out a lot of this stuff about the Death Singer and how he explains stuff about the Voltaris. Because we get Death Singer's story at the end when he hands off the staff, but we didn't really get much of the Voltaris story about the Voltaris and the previous clans and stuff. So this was the opportunity where he kind of honestly just kind of explains almost all of it. But he does say my story is one I'm not willing to share, which is why he doesn't end up sharing his story yet. That's the thing. We only learn that when Death Singer then imparts the clan staff onto Sen at the end. That's something that he wouldn't reveal other than, at that point when he makes him become a master, which is kind of nice. We just talk about the Voltaris and the clan stuff. And we get to see again Death Singer being quite reasonable, being like, I don't want to kill you, you're part Voltaris, also you haven't really done anything to me yet. Just bring me the Prime Songs and maybe I'll go back to Old Voltaria, which there's a place on the map right here where there used to be that's where Voltaria used to be, but now it's just kind of empty. Voltaria's pretty though. Some people in this Discord were surprised when I was explaining that Voltaria is quite pretty. People were imagining Old Voltaria as this old ruined wasteland, but that didn't happen. Voltaria is fine until they were just kind of they abandoned it. Trees just kind of regrew. Things went back to normal. It's actually quite pretty. There's no one living there, so it's nice and natural. And this is where he finally explains why he wants the Prime Songs and why he's so set on them, why he wanted to get them and stuff, and why and this was a thing. We actually didn't realize this until quite late into the writing. We were still kind of unsure. Why does he really want the Prime Songs? We should probably explain that at some point. So we had to brainstorm a while, and the idea we were thinking was kind of... we use the analogy, it's kind of like nukes. It's like when someone else has nukes, you don't want that person having nukes, because that's it's like even in modern days, people, a lot of people nowadays are kind of worried, oh, these other countries have nukes. I'm kind of concerned. Even though they might not be threatening you right now or at war with you, it's still scary when this other group has these big weapons that they could use on you if they're not really quite your friends and stuff. And the Voltaris were the ones who... I used the word discovered the Prime Songs because I don't want to... I never wanted to explain how songs are made, how they're found, how they're formed. I wanted to keep it kind of vague, but the Voltaris discovered the Prime Songs, but then the other clans took them. So then the Voltaris were then living in this kind of weird, the Voltaris started being kind of... I don't know the word, pushed away from the other clans a bit more, a little more kind of out of this, almost not a Cold War, but that kind of feeling where they're kind of not quite that strong, but that kind of uneasy tensions between them. So then the Death Singer, so the Voltaris, these early Voltaris were these other guys have these Prime Songs. It's dangerous. I don't want to live worried they're going to use them against us and stuff. And then sure enough, as time went on, these Prime Songs were literally used as weapons to hunt down the Voltaris, the champion stuff again. That's what I was saying before. Each season they would hold these tournaments, and it, it's almost like they made it like a little game. They made it like, we'll hold a tournament, and then we'll go kill all the Voltaris using the weapons that the Voltaris invented. So you see that this old stuff with these old clan masters and stuff, like way old masters, was pretty messed up, and then this kind of became like just the tradition, and then history kind of became skewed, and as time went on, people didn't quite know like why that had happened, and like the Walls of Time the Walls of Time weren't written by the Voltaris. The victor writes history was kind of one of the big morals of the story, and I'll get to that kind of at the end, is that the clan masters went and told all the people of the Walls of Time, like, oh yeah, the Voltaris did all this horrible stuff, and they must have not known that there was this other side to the Voltaris, and they weren't really being truthful. So there was actually some falsifications on the Walls of Time and stuff. Anyway, they're all hunted down, and then this is where they kind of start bringing that story back again that I'll mention again at the end of this season. The one at the beginning of season 2, where there's like whole stuff with on the Barrier Mountains with Dominus who got killed, and how then he was given the thing. Well, we see very brief flashes. Yeah, we see the brief flashes of that kind of opening battle in season 2. That was kind of that weird mystery one that wasn't quite explained. So we know that one's going to be relevant again, and it is very relevant. Deathsinger escaped, and then he also mentioned a bit here about how, these Prime Songs have this just crazy problem, and even he was kind of overcome by them. And either way, this war is going to come to a close soon. Which because he's been working with Volcanus, we learn soon, and they're about to try to bring all this war to an end. He didn't really want this war to go on. He just kind of wants to move on with his clan and live. So he lets Sen go, and then he's like, "Come on, Lucius, we have much to discuss." Goes to Lucius and stuff. Which is then interesting because there's then a bit where. Yeah, this is interesting. There's a bit here where then, so he lets Sen go, and Rhea was at like kind of this entrance to the Walls of Time, and she sees somewhere around here. I think it's actually more around this corner. She'd have been kind of walking along here, just kind of wandering along, and she's kind of doing stretches, just walking around between things, and she would have looked out across the snow and seen, Sen wandering along with his backpack or stuff, wandering along, seeing this random Ardonian just walking across the snowfield, and being like, oh, that's weird, who's that? Having no idea that, that was Sen. So it's kind of interesting, like, they were so close, but had no idea, once again, kind of like before. She heads to the Walls of Time. Oh, and then she's in the Walls of Time, doing her studying. She's studying up on the Prime Song stuff and how they were used. This is what I was talking about. There's this nice lot. Oh, that's creepy ambience again. This is like a little study that she's been using these books down here in the Walls of Time to kind of learn up on the Walls of Time. And then while she was here, nice kind of tense moment where she was just here and like, suddenly, snap, Deathsinger and Lucius and Deltheus come around the corner, so she has to kind of hide. So she hides in the Walls of Time, and as she's hiding like behind one of these walls, she would have been hiding like behind one of these. So you can get a lot of shots of her like hiding here, and then I think it actually would have been this one over here, like she would have been hiding here, and then they walk, right around here, and then they come to this Wall of Time. This was the Wall of Time where, Thalius was reading off of in the beginning, the one that speaks about the Great War, and all the stuff that the Deathsinger did. So he's kind of here reading it for this is the first time. He went through the portal, skipped all these years, and is now reading these histories about what had happened that he had to him just done not that long ago, only a few years ago, because of the time jump between season 2 and 3. So they have this little private meeting here between some of the Voltaris. Rhea's hiding. Rhea overhears as he's right next to it. Kind of tense moment as she's trying not to be found. It's also worth noting, I kind of skipped over when they were at Hailstone. Hailstone also was Nether occupied. There was Wither skeletons. There was Withers, but there's not too many inhabitants of Hailstone. I think I had this idea that, in fact, I think I said that somewhere in the script I mentioned the Nether didn't really like Hailstone. It's just too cold. They like, they like the Nether. They like warm. So they didn't want to occupy Hailstone. So I think they moved the Hailstone people out of Hailstone into one of the other cities and one of the other capitals. And then they kind of left Hailstone a little more alone. There was still some Wither skeletons at Hailstone. There were some Netharans at Hailstone. But that was the one they said, hey, you Voltaris, if you want a place to, have as your kind of little base of operations, you can use Hailstone. So that was kind of the idea, is why the Voltaris, once the Great War began, why the Voltaris weren't being involved. They were up at Hailstone. That was kind of their new place of kind of living, which is still cold and freezing and still kind of sucks, but it's better than being on the mountains. Yeah, they talk, and he mentions, like, my informant, that everything is falling into place, that he had been talking to Volcanus. Volcanus doesn't like Pythus either. So we also get this nice, we start seeing Volcanus and Deathsinger both being a little more likable, and that these two characters are kind of, like, working together to take down the Nether. Wow, that was a weird one. I pushed on my neck, because my neck still kind of hurts, and it, like, pushed a burp out. So I'm going to drink some water real quick. We also get a good moment here. Again, we were really trying to work on Deathsinger's dialogue, making sure he does come across as the character we wanted him to be, where he's a lot more selfless. He's kind of like the Titan Singer, where he really is thinking about his clanspeople. He's like, I'm going to do this crazy thing. It's going to be really dangerous. None of you guys need to come if you don't want to. I'll do it alone if I have to. I'll take the risk because I'm the one who wants to do this, but then the rest, the Delphius and Lucidius are like, yeah, we'll be in. Okay, so then, but he does give them the opportunity. Like, he's not like Tiger and Pythus, like, oh, you're gonna do this thing, you're gonna do. Deathsinger, like, really wants to make sure that his followers believe in his plans and stuff before just making him do something. Abigail's in the prison. Oh, we did make the prison. Let's go to the prison. Do I have a? I'm gonna find it. Once again, gotta generate some chunks, turn shaders off, so I can find it faster. We did make the prison, so I'm gonna show it. It's not too big, not too exciting. I'm not sure if we 100% finished it. There's some things that might be missing. I believe it was through here. Yeah, oh, whoop, that was a weird lag. Oh, here's the gate I was talking about. So there's the gate. If you go through here, there's this little area. This would have been that big gate that was locked. And if you come... Oh, okay, there was some stuff we threw in. This would have been full of a lot of actual, like, props I would have laid out in Blender. This is... Oh, and there's the ender chest. Okay. This is where Kiki would have came through the ender chest, flown around, unlocked the door, and then they would have come in here and gotten this stuff. But if you go the other way... This was a little dungeon cell. So, Abigail's being kept in here. And then we see Volcanus come in here. At first he's kind of like, you think, oh, he's still a villain or something. You treat him. But then he's like, oh, do you trust me? And I was like, huh? And then Volcanus kills some of the wither skeletons. He brings out his cool bow that has all the kind of weird effects. I had his bow just having all these weird things. He had like that weird stun thing that like knocked Luna out of the air. He got this weird one that like splinters into like multiple arrows that fly around and like kill a bunch of skeletons. I don't know what was up with this bow. I just thought it was cool. Then we had this cool... Oh, someone said there should be a cool like little duel in here. I think at one point. So we had a Natharan. Like, we wanted to see a Natharan fighting, not just mowing down wither skeletons. So we had this like basically the Natharan kind of warden person with this big axe. They fight for a moment, but then it defeats him. Abigail's not too happy with it. It's not having it. He does have some of his nice kind of oldie-timey language, like, I understand I'm feeling a bit vexed. Vexed? What do you mean? Like, but he was still in work of a little bit of dialogue bits here and there. So then they go out to get their weapons, and then they go into the vault thing, and he gets the crown and the blade, both of which light up, and he holds them, and that's when we finally realize, oh, it wasn't really explained until this point. We kind of got some of it, but this is where it's really, like, explicit. He is the king. He is the real Nether king. Pythus is a fake. That's why Pythus wasn't wearing the crown, didn't use the sword. He still uses his big old axe. And boopity boppity. Yeah, he explains the king. Bigga-da-bum. Oh, I love this line where he's going on about this whole, like, much of what I told you wasn't really true, and it wasn't something, maybe something half something, but this really long-winded answer saying, like, yeah, I've been kind of keeping stuff from you, and just like, okay, wait, what? Explain stuff, bobbity bobby boobity. Then while they're in this cool vault, then now they get to kind of work together a bit, and they're kind of looking around for the stuff they can find. They find the idea a lot of the stuff in here would have been like relics they had taken from battles. There's like, yeah, you can see these like dragon heads on the walls. Steve had up here where they killed Steve from Animation Life. There'd been all these different like relics, and there's like a little bit of a library and some books. So they use one of the books to learn a bit about these kind of the trials of the end, and that was why. Oh, that's right. Abigail's Ender crown stopped being illuminated. I actually totally forgot about that. After everyone started dying, her crown didn't illuminate hers, and she never had the swords. So that was the only. Her crown stopped illuminating. Her armor still worked. The crown no longer shows her as like the queen or whatever. And I'll come back to that a little more about the whole crown stuff. So she has to do the trials of the end. We're on episode 8. So yeah, and again, this is what I was talking about with the rest of this season. Like after episode 5 or after episode 4, really, we get a lot of these very like personal stories. Now it's just Abigail, Volcanus, with kind of Kiki hanging about sometimes. Kiki's not here now though, and it's just these. You're really focusing on these like main core story with the characters. You're getting Rhea trying to use Prime songs. You're getting Sen talking to Death Singer. We get these nice moments where it's the end of season 3 was some of my favorite stuff, just because it's got those kind of more personal feel of like season 2. But with still the big climactic kind of moments and whatnot. Anyway, she goes out. Nono's fine. They split back up. Once again, Volcanus tries to say something like, yeah, I sure you something, then Luna just flies off. So, yeah, good old Luna just doesn't like Volcanus. And here we go. So now the second half of this episode, episode 8, is the big floor battle. I thought so. So... Scorched is here and like blah blah, you're the chronicler, but you're the chronicler, shouldn't be doing this, if I'm gonna kill you, bobbity bloobity. Then they have a big fight in Flora. There's not too much to even really go into in this one. Most of it is pretty straightforward with the script. The script explains things, so I'm not gonna go over and just read the whole thing. Yeah, it's like a little over 2 hours now, and it kind of seemed long. We do see Lucan actually get pretty big injured. Gets injured pretty notably here. He gets like slashed along the leg. Then even Nika gets like kind of injured. Nika tries to fight Scorch. First Lucan and Nika are fighting him, then gets injured. And then Scorch get hit by an arrow, and it's like, huh? They turn and they see Natsuki holding the bow. Natsuki was supposed to like evacuate and escape while they were having the battle, but Natsuki ended up actually helping. She had a bow, and this was kind of going with that whole. Natsuki was like, oh, she's not allowed to fight. She's not supposed to be involved. She can't be involved, but she kind of was with the whole shadow thing. And then in the end, she chose to help out even a bit and kill Scorch, which was a pretty big deal for someone like a chronicler. They're really not supposed to do that. So kind of technically should have forfeit her whole chronicler stuff, but. I think later on they mentioned the whole, like, we won't let anyone know that you were helping a bit, because he did help, and she was trying to do genuine chronicling stuff, versus a lot of the other chroniclers who'd obviously kind of screwed up the walls of time. And there's a cool bit, though, where then Zarya, there's a nice bit for this, too. So Zarya does manage to kill a Wither at one point. They're fighting the Wither. I think Zarya goes up against the Wither. There's some really cool bits where there have been some really nice shots of, like, Zarya standing on, like, some of these hanging platforms, and then the Wither would have been like facing off him. He's got the Necro staff. He's got the Necro staff that the Necro Lord used to use, but right now it's not really effective because the Wither's here. But he does manage to kill the Wither, and then at the moment, you don't think, oh, it's not too big of a deal. The Wither's dead, but like they had been mentioning, without the Wither, they don't control the undead anymore. So there's a bit where he comes down here. Bunch of Netharans are chasing after him. He's got the Wither skull. He runs into here, and he would have then came in here. Then like he would have turned around, and then all these Netharans start piling in, and they're like, "Oh, we got you." There's a bunch of Netharans, a bunch of Wither skeletons, but no zombies anymore. And then suddenly he'd be sitting here. He'd kind of be holding the staff. Then all these glowing white eyes would start appearing behind Zarya, showing that he's got them on his side, and that would have then ended the battle with that kind of final shot. Nice way, like you don't need to see much around it. Basically, you just see all the army of the undead appearing. Then it moves to after the battle. That was like nice final wave showing. Okay, that they obviously won at that point. So we see after the battle, and again, I mentioned at the beginning of this commentary, the whole Flora also would have been more nether occupied. A lot of these trees I were going to actually kind of trim way back, like they just kind of burned away a lot of the leaves. I would have left some of the leaves to kind of have some of the kind of topiary feel still, but a lot of the leaves have been cut back. There would have been lots of lava everywhere, and bits of lava kind of pouring out of certain things still to make it look a little more nether occupied. It's over. Lucan was injured. They liberated it. Good old heady dialogue. You have to support Lucan. Oh, how sweet. Shippy moments. This is a nice bit. I like this bit a lot. So then, as they're about to head back, Zarya walks over and is like, excuse me, like, says very little. Nika was still like, what? I don't like the necromancers. But then Zarya doesn't say anything. He just holds out the staff, gives the staff to Nika. Final line: the necromancers are no more. And then he would have just kind of turned and then left. And then Nika would have been there, kind of holding the staff, looking as Zarya's walking off. And that would have been the last you would have seen of Zarya. Last you would have seen the necromancers. And then now Nika's got the staff, which was kind of the fitting. That was really the end to their story. That was what their story started out as. Hunting necromancers. We're talking necromancers. Then it turned into this big battle against the Nether and stuff. But really, it was like her whole objective in season 1 and 2 was trying to stop the necromancers and stuff. And here at the end, we get that nice closure where she ends up with the staff now. The last of the necromancers, leave to do who knows what. And I like the idea that Zarya then leaves, and we don't really quite know what happens to him. He pulls his hood. He's still got his hood up. He's just kind of this mystery figure walking away. That way, in season 4, the necromancers rise again under Zarya. No, I'm just kidding. I like this kind of mystery of we don't quite know where he goes after this. It's a good way to end it. And then they did it together. So they win that battle, and then at the end of the episode, Pythus is in a rage, realizing Volcanus betrayed him. Back at the Nether, Volcanus, I think at this point he's in the Nether, isn't he? Oh yeah, Volcanus is destroying some of the portals. He's trying to destroy some of the portals on the inside, really trying to make it harder for the Nether to win now. He's really against, he's pretty much full on trying to help the overworld people, help the Ender Knights and stuff. So Pythus is here in the throne room. Man, it's just so dark. I have to turn these shaders off. And then, oops, not on Destiny. Wait. No, this isn't in the throne room yet. This is back in, sorry. This is, come on, load. Load. Back in Crown Peak. Did I just load some random shader? That is not a... Yeah, I clicked on some random shader. Kind of nice, though. It's not a bad shader. It's a little juicy. Doesn't have quite... I like Timmy a little more, but that's kind of nice. It's a nice alternative. Silder's Vibrant. And it crashed. God dang it. I want to start kind of wrapping this up. We're getting about 2 hours and 20 minutes now. Oh my god, I clicked the wrong one. It's got load again. There we go. Okay. That's much better. I can see so much better with these. So Pythus is still on the throne area. He's in a rage and he's going on about this stuff. And then he finally is like... because he learned about how Feldon, got liberated. So now he's lost... Never took Carthan. He's lost Meridian, wasn't able to retake Meridian. And now lost Feldon. Doesn't really have much. He's mostly kind of fallen back to he's got Crown Peak, he's got Oakendale, he's got Hyperia. So then he's free the capitals and stuff. And then we get this nice cliffhanger, and we were trying to make sure we're still getting nice cliffhanger endings in these last few episodes. So we had this episode 8, he's like, liberate the city. He's like, what do you mean? Then the first time we see Oakendale since forever, since season 1, in the city of Oakendale, we'd see it's kind of Nether occupied and stuff. Suddenly the Angel of Death flies through the portal, flies overhead, and it's like, what's going on? And then suddenly the withers just start raining fire down in the city, and by that I mean just blasting it with their low energy blast, just shooting it, just torching the whole place. The wither skeletons that start going on killing everyone. They're basically like, oh, okay, if they're going to try to liberate it, we'll just get rid of them, pull everything back to the capital to get what we need, and then we'll head out soon. You know, they don't really want to rule all these things forever. They mainly just want their stuff for a bit, and they can still rule from Crown Peak and the other ones, but just get rid of a lot of their opposition. So they start. So we get this nice kind of cliffhanger where then the Angel Death lands, pulls out the swords, so you realize, oh snap them. And then that way we can open up episode 9 with the battles kind of happening at these cities. The cities are kind of being destroyed, mainly Hyperion Hills. Wait. Oh. Okay, so there were still some people at Hailstone, I guess. I might have changed that, though. When the time came for that, I think I like the idea of there not being people at Hailstone and just being kind of Oakendale and Hyperia. And we do see some people manage to escape. Yujuki, the captain of guard at Hyperia, does, like, save some people, and they kind of... There's a little secret entrance, or secret exit they escape from. And there also was a secret exit in Oakendale. That was how... We made this secret exit specifically for this moment, such that when the cities were kind of ransacked here, they would be able to escape. Way back here, I think there's like this, is it in here? No, it was like behind the books. Oh man, we changed a lot of these designs around now, I'm not actually sure. Oh, you gotta like jump up here, jump up on the shelf, go through the secret door. Yeah, and then you can go throughout the mines, and then you actually, if you do run this through, it actually is like a complete full escape exit through the mines. Takes you out, way on the other side, closer actually to Twin Pass, kind of. There's a little hidden escape exit. So opens with that thing, and then we get Abigail arriving in the trials at the end. Again, with all the cool Ender stuff happens at the end of the series, which I think was kind of a fault of just the way it was written. We kind of had this everything building up. What am I doing? Warp End. Nope, Warp End Castle. So it's a shame that all these cool stuff really kind of got saved so far. I can't see anything again. Anyway, Abigail flies down, lands on that big landing pad thing I was talking about. Comes in here. There's this big room, that's where the sword is. She pulls the sword out. And then this whole floor would have like... you probably can't see anything, it's so dark. Let me turn off the shaders. This is episode 9. We're like on the pre-season finale. We're just now getting like... her doing the trials at the end, getting her Ender's sword. Those stones would have all like moved down, but in a really cool animated manner where like each one moves kind of randomly in this weird kind of wave. They all move down here, bringing her down here. This is where then sees this weird kind of like illusion kind of stuff starts happening. Sees Denny. Sam and I talked a lot about these trials, what each one kind of stood for. I honestly don't remember exactly anymore, so I'm not going to try to pretend I remember and explain them, but each of these trials was supposed to be testing her with some different thing, and because she had these different problems, different things, like I think this one was about how she thought she led to everyone's death, and this was testing her to see if she still felt that, or if she was, what a queen or king should be, and realized that these people, they did, Denny fought for Abigail, he fought for the end, so his death wasn't really her fault, it was, Denny chose to be an Under Knight, chose to do this, and his death wasn't really on her, like she kind of thinks it is, and that was what this kind of was testing, because she's like, it wasn't your fault and stuff, and Denny, but then it was just an illusion, but it was to kind of teach her and test her on whether she could kind of take these losses and not take it all to her responsibility. Then there's the one where she sees Finch next. She goes to this... Oh, there's a bit where she fights Volcanus, I think. And the whole reason I wanted this... One of the reasons I wanted this Volcanus fight was so I could at least make use... If I had this old concept art I did ages ago for Songs of War, it wasn't even really, like, genuine. I guess... See if I can find the original one. It was this one. That was an old, just random concept I did for Songs of War, showing a bit about what Songs of War was, with like Ender Knights with the Ender Blades, and then there's the Nether Blades, and one day, like at the end of the series, they would kind of come together. So I thought it'd be cool seeing that, get that kind of worked in as just a bit of reference, but also as a cool trailer thing, seeing like Volcanus walking towards her with the Nether Blade. And this was the only opportunity we could have seen, and that was like showing, like making it seem like Volcanus was going to fight Abigail again. That was more for that stuff I was saying with the trailer to make it really seem like they're enemies. But of course, it was just this illusion here for the test. But then, so then she picks up the blade, and it becomes. Then she gets this weird like hybrid thing I was going to do, where it would have actually been kind of like this, where her armor would have turned like half nether as she holds the nether blade. So, but just I think this one was testing something about her how far she'd go. I think it was about testing like the balance, whether she would maintain balance between nether and the end, or if she would go too far in one direction or something and kind of ruin the balance. And that was what I was saying before about how I imagine that there was always this kind of nice balance between the nether and the end. There had to be a balance or something, otherwise it would kind of screw up. And then there's a bit where she goes through and sees Finch. I think this one was testing kind of the reasoning, like why did she leave? Why did she leave to do all these things? And why did she go after the egg and stuff? Then the last one is testing the moment where Alistair kind of betrayed her. And this time if she'll kill him. And then she kills him. And then everything kind of seems as if it went wrong. And then everything kind of ends. And then it's like, oh wait, did she fail? The crown that was there falls on the ground, it's not glowing or anything. Like, so she thinks she puts it on her head, it doesn't illuminate. So this is where I had some of the editors who read the script actually ask me, or even I think even Sam was asking, because he wasn't quite sure what I was going for with some of this stuff. So I'll explain what my reasoning was with this whole Ender Trials. Although I do like you coming up with some of your own interpretation. That was kind of part of the idea. You're supposed to kind of interpret this how you wanted. There's different ways you can interpret the Ender Trials. But I will say, if you're curious and if you have watched through these 2.5 hours of this commentary, you do deserve to know what my thought process was. However, I encourage you to have your own idea. You don't even have to go with my idea if you have one that you think works better for your own. The way I saw this, it was people are like, oh, did she make it or did she fail? It's supposed to make it seem like she failed, but my idea was that the Ender Trials weren't supposed to show you like a pass or fail. The Ender Trials weren't just this, oh, you do them and then you either win or you fail. I imagine the Ender Trials, like it was kind of the thing like, was that Star Trek 2009, where it's like that mission where you always fail. The real test wasn't the Ender Trials, it's what you do after the Ender Trials. It's after you fail this thing, what do you do? Do you give up and say, oh, I guess I'm not an Ender Knight, I guess I'm not an Ender Queen, I'm not an Ender King or whatever, and then you give up, and then that's the real test. So, she fails here. Sorry, you might hear my stomach growling, I'm getting hungry. She fails here, but then, and the Endermen are still kind of watching her, but then she takes the stuff. She keeps the Ender Blade, which is no longer, it's not glowing, it's just a kind of dark blade, but she keeps it. Keeps the crown. She's not wearing the crown. And then she talks to the Enderman a bit here, just so we can get some idea. She's basically saying like, I'm sorry, I might not be your Ender Queen. I might have failed these things, because she thinks the test, showed that she failed. Maybe she did things wrong, but she's like, doesn't matter quite what happened. I'm sorry I wasn't able to do these things, but I'm not going to stop fighting. I'm not going to stop with it. There's people, other Ender Knights that are still out there and might. She doesn't even know if Sax and Trevor are alive. We haven't seen them since really early on in this season. And she's like asking, even though I may not be your Ender Queen, even though I may have failed this test, I'm going to keep fighting for the end. Will you help me? But then most of them start kind of teleporting away. They all start leaving. She's back here in this she's back in this area where there's these little, like, the Endermen would have been on these little things kind of watching, and then they all start teleporting away, and then she's left just alone with Luna. But then I think she was going to like start turning, like, okay, well, I guess I'll just do it on my own. But then as she starts turning, you hear like, she turns around, and you would have seen the Enderman that was missing part of his arm, the one that tried to fight Jalkar and try to get the egg back in season 1, the one that was kind of watching Abigail really early on in her journey. It would have been the first one to come back and kind of be like, yeah, I think you have what it takes. And then we don't see what more, but then a few more start kind of, I don't think they start teleporting, and a few more just start kind of appearing around. you see that a few more stayed. So some of them didn't quite trust her, some of them didn't quite know, but then a fair amount of them did. That was part of the test stuff. But anyway, Sen gets a nice bit back in Sandaria. This was nice. Sen returns to Sandaria after, Sandaria had been, his hometown in Sandaria, after been burned and then left vacant. Things would have kind of regrown. It would have been kind of destroyed and empty, and like no one lives there anymore. But there would have been a bunch of life and stuff. The grass would have grown inside. There would have been leaves and stuff kind of growing inside. And it would have been a really kind of pretty place, actually, again. Pretty lighting, but also very emotional for him, seeing his home empty and destroyed. But he passes through. And he reunites with Timber, which is nice. Timber was... Sorry, my stomach was growling like crazy. I might have to take a snack break. I'm so close, though. So he sees some things, he gets some nice memories. There have been these emotional moments where he sees all these like flashbacks of memories with him and Rhea when they were younger, and they're good memories and stuff, growing up here. Then Rhea's back up at the shrine that we saw earlier. She's starting to feel kind of, even she's having the problem with the Prime songs, kind of looking at her. And then when she's out, I think she's outside. So she's sitting on the shrine. She's not in the walls of time at this point. Then lightning strikes, boom, Herobrine appears. They're kind of surprised. But then Herobrine pulls out this little wooden sword, just tosses one to her. I'm going to have to eat. My stomach, I can't even focus with my stomach growling this loud. Okay, I'm now back. Sorry about that. I just had to go for a quick lunch break. My stomach was grumbling like crazy. Okay, so where were we? So, Rhea was at the shrine. Herobrine shows up. And then Herobrine, he starts training her, and that's where we get this cool, this nice, if I go back to the first song, it's about to sneeze, here comes a sneeze, here comes a sneeze, here comes a sneeze. Sneeze went away, okay. Turn back the shaders on. Go shaders, or go broke. Is it because it's not a zip file that has to load it up? Well, that's nice water. It's pretty. There's all these big ice chunks way out here, and that was where she was going to be fighting, and that would have been, again, some very visually... All the Northwind stuff's cool, because it's all about these just vast, big, open areas, and it would have been cool seeing her way out on the ice, nice lighting kind of reflecting off the ice. She would have been way out on the ice, like training with Herobrine, just getting better at like her sword wielding, having someone to train, and it was also having her train to use the songs, to use the Prime songs, because she was now doing the... Doing the Prime songs. She now slowly through like reading the books in the Walls of Time, practicing, has been able to kind of wield them now. She wields them a bit, practice with Herobrine. Now we get the throne scene I thought was last episode, or earlier this episode. So then we get the cool bit at the throne. Shaders back off, where Pythus is hanging out, and this is the bit where he's mad about Volcanus doing all this stuff and kind of thinking about retaliating, and then suddenly, rather than needing to go find Volcanus just shows back up. He's like, "You looking for me?" And then this is where we get a nice moment where it's like, "Oh snap! Why is Volcanus here? Why is Volcanus confronting him?" And obviously everyone wants to kill him and stuff, but he came to the throne. Another good, nice dramatic moment, very good dramatic music, kind of tense, and then Pythus is going on about him and stuff, and then. I'm reading the script a bit just to kind of see if I'm missing anything. Then Volcanus then brings out the thing like, "This throne's not yours," and then Pythus does all this stuff, says all this other stuff, and then so I'm just reading. I'm seeing if it's oh right, yeah. So then they have an argument, and the argument kind of stops like, "The throne's mine," and then. In the silence that kind of follows after the axe he like slams the axe on the ground. It kind of silently like rings out. Then you hear some footsteps. Then the Death Singer slowly walks, and the Death Singer is here. And then it's like, "Oh, I don't remember summoning you." And then it's been a complication and stuff. Oh yeah, the Angel Death had been kind of stopping Volcanus from getting closer. But then the Death Singer kind of passes by him, showing like what's going on. And this is where it's finally actually revealed to the viewer that the Death Singer has been... This scene would have been more dramatic prior, because we didn't know Volcanus and Death Singer are working together until this moment. that there's kind of mentions of like, oh, I've been working with my informant tells me this or something. Volcanus, I think, had a very brief mention about something he might have been working on, but this is the first point where it's like, oh, Deathsinger and Volcanus are working together. They're gonna help try to overthrow them together. That's Deathsinger's here to help fight if need be. Volcanus is here to prove that he's the rightful king. And the idea is that Deathsinger and Volcanus must have got together at one point and talked about how, Deathsinger was kind of using the Voltaris, using a Nether to kind of help the Voltaris when they needed to, but doesn't really want the Voltaris in charge. Doesn't want the Nether in charge, and would rather have Volcanus in charge. And if Volcanus was in charge, Volcanus would then withdraw the Nether, and that would solve everyone's problem. So that's why they're working together. But then, good lines that kind of, not here to kill you. You're being replaced. And the music kind of like hits a little note as you realize, oh, okay, that's what they're doing. They're going to get Volcanus to try to take the throne. And then that's where then Volcanus puts on the crown, pulls out the blade, everything is glowing, he declares himself the king, and he tries to call upon the people here, the Netharans, mostly Netharans around here, some Wither Skeleton stuff, but a lot of Netharans kind of watching. But then, this is where it starts getting interesting, is, he was hoping it would kind of be a very, like, I'm the king, I'm the rightful king, you've been following kind of a traitor. Oh, let me take a drink. But as you see, Pythis brings up a lot of good points throughout the series, and one of them is the whole, like, doesn't really matter who the rightful king is or whatever. A lot of these people followed Pythis, even when they knew all these things he had done. But so then Volcanus challenges him. And what's interesting is Pythis doesn't actually, he doesn't take up the challenge. Yeah, Volcanus challenges him, like, oh, I'll challenge you to the right of the throne, let's duel this or something. But then Pythis, being Pythis, he's very Deathsinger, very unhonorable. He's like, oh no, kind of sways the conversation in a different way. Talks about how he's going to own all these rule all these thrones. But then he goes on about how he was even stronger than even Ingressus and stuff in the Voltaris. And then this is where then you think, oh, nice, Volcanus was working with Deathsinger. Oh, they're going to overthrow Pythis. Oh, this might be a happy ending. But then you start realizing Pythis was like, he was still doing things. He had his own plans. And then he was like one about like what happened with Hailstone and leaving Hailstone so vulnerable or something, because they were going to use Hailstone as their point of like defense or something. So then he was setting up a trap for the Voltaris back at Hailstone. And then that's when it's like, oh snap. And throughout this conversation, as the speech starts changing and the tone starts changing, we start seeing like these things happening in Hailstone. So you get that nice kind of parallelism. He's explaining this kind of story, and you're seeing the Voltaris, because the Voltaris were planning at Hailstone to overthrow the Voltaris there, disable the portal, and then they've got a safe place they can hide, just so they're for when they overthrow Pythis. So you see this thing happening, you see this plan happening. So as Volcanus and Deathsinger here, you're thinking, oh yeah, the Voltaris, they're going to go overthrow the Nether, they're going to work together. But then Pythis turns it around, and then flat Hailstone, kill the Voltaris. The angels just start trying to fly off, and then boom, everything breaks out. The Voltaris run out and start trying to liberate Hailstone. Sorry, I saw the word Crown Peak, so I got confused. They start trying to liberate Hailstone, as in, say liberate at this point. Voltaris are trying to kill the Nether at Hailstone so they can then kind of occupy and control it. But then at the same time, in Crown Peak, there's an army that was ready to warp in, so right before they can get to the beacon and stop it, when the army starts coming through Hailstone, not a huge army, but a big enough force to stop all the Voltaris. So a big battle going on in here, battle going on at Hailstone, Nether versus Voltaris, villains on villains again, always interesting. Deathsinger's trying to stop the Angel of Death, but Angel of Death keeps flying around and stuff, which would have been cool, because then he would have been the Angel of Death was flying straight towards the portal, so you would have gotten this really nice chase sequence happening through the city. Deathsinger has to keep getting stopped by all these Netharans and Wither Skeletons in the way, but he's constantly trying to stop Angel of Death. He has a Mobilium song, so he could do flying stuff, fly after it using Val's wings or other kind of flying ones to try to stop it and try to slow it down, move it around. And Pythis does go in a fight with Volcanus, so you get that nice fight. fights going on, and then what you start realizing is, so half the Netharans were kind of on Volcanus' side, didn't really like Pythis, realized that he was the right king and stuff, and the other half of them were actually quite loyal to Pythis and liked what Pythis has been doing. Ends up, Pythis' side starts kind of winning out. And then when things start looking dire again, little Ender Pearl lands, boom, Abigail shows up. And there's a nice little line of Queen Abigail, and she's kind of like, yeah, something like that, because she, in her mind, she's not actually the queen anymore, but to her it doesn't really matter, like, yeah, whatever, I'm your help. Pulls out the sword, not the Enderblade one, just like a normal sword, and then all the Endermen start teleporting in. And I swear, was Luna not here? That was going to get changed. Yeah, that was going to be a rewrite that never happened. Luna was going to be here as well, I think. I wanted to see the dragon, and we see Withers in the end. We see Nether, dragons in the end. We see them both in the overworld. We only saw Withers in the Nether, and I wanted to see the dragon in the Nether. There's going to be a bit where... So they were going to be at the throne room. Abigail shows up. The Endermen start teleporting into this dimension, trying to protect them and stuff. So that now there's like a war going on in here between the Nether and the End as well. Luna was going to fly through the portal or something, fly up and start like torching stuff. And so during all that distraction, Volcanus and Abigail would be trying to escape, get to the portal. Luna would also be flying away. Some of the Endermen die a bunch, but they kind of went there knowing that. I think the one-armed guy, I don't know if he would have lived or died. I never really thought about that. He could have died in this fight. Maybe he wouldn't have, though. Who knows? I like that. Maybe he lived. So they escape, and then Pythis also is like, we're going to leave to the End. Let's get out of here. While this battle's going on, we're going to go to the End, deal with the End stuff. So the End's no longer this problem. Because previously he wasn't really like, he hadn't actually gone to the End yet, so now he's going to go to the End, take care of that. Because now it's becoming a problem. Now the End all showed up, and now the End's in the Nether. But the End wasn't here to like completely destroy the Nether. It's just enough to kind of help Abigail get Volcanus back and stuff. So they escape the portal. Then they come out the other side. They come out in some clearing. I don't ever know where this was. For some reason I imagined it Bangorn, but I don't think it was supposed to be Bangorn. And this is again where Abigail then finally goes and explains some things about, Volcanus is feeling a little bit kind of sad, like he sees this thing where like all these people staying in front of him, but they're still loyal to that, like the false king, and he expected more of the people, and then he's kind of holding the crown, because he had the crown on, but he takes it off, and this is where he's, it's like, why do we even have these crowns if we choose the king and stuff? And then Abigail gets to kind of explain how she also, was trying to be the queen, but failed the trials and stuff, and neither of them were something. I swear they got rid of their crowns. Huh. That might have been a rewrite I was considering as well. I thought at one point they were both going to leave their crowns behind at this bit. I thought they were going to say, like, they keep the swords, but I thought the crowns themselves were these things kind of like these symbols and reasons that didn't need to exist, and I thought they both chose to leave the crowns down on the ground and left them behind, and then they would have gone off without feeling like kings and queens, but going off just as people fighting for their own kingdom or whatever. Big meeting in Tartarus. Everyone's kind of learning about what's going on. They're planning for the big finale battle. Everyone's kind of around, just a big gathering. Just all the final characters have to talk. Sensors up at one point. There's a nice bit here at one point where again, Rhea's like kind of wanting to use the songs, wants to use the prime songs in battle, but then other people are still on the side of like, we probably shouldn't use them or something. There's a little bit of a disagreement between the team. That was the thing we wanted to work in, just to show that Knights of Ardonia aren't always just like 100% on with everything, having them kind of like a little bit of a conflict. This is a long conversation. I don't remember this being quite as long, man. They thought that would have been trimmed down a lot. And then it's in here. Then the bit where she gets kind of upset about what happened because they're all kind of arguing, and she's like, fine, so takes a break. So she goes back out in Tartarus, and then as she steps out, Sen has just arrived in Tartarus, which doesn't make that much sense, but he did say it's a long journey. From Sandaria, he rode on timber all the way down there to Tartarus. Maybe a lot of time had passed, or it's just a Minecraft world that you can actually run across on a horse in probably about 15 minutes. But some time had passed, he got there. I think he even brought some little flowers from Sandaria. It was kind of cute. and then they hug. They go back in. They talk about how they have a plan that might not quite risk her as much, but she can still use the prime songs, which is the Borgin had the plan about them, sneaking under the tunnels and stuff. So then all the armies getting ready. It's a pre-series finale. All the armies are setting out once again, kind of getting ready. All the factions, and we see other stuff. Wait a second. At one point there was something about the other kingdoms liberating themselves. That must have been like a little thing without any dialogue that just scrolled over. At one point, I don't remember where that was. Maybe that's the next thing. I don't know. I swear there was a bit where the other kingdoms, like the other ones that, because the whole idea was that like Luke and Nika kind of inspired the other ones to kind of rise up and something. But then Oakendale and Hyperia destroyed it. Maybe I'm just imagining that anyway. But then the very end of episode 9, so everything's seeming kind of cool. All these big battles are getting ready. Oh, here's how it's going to end. It's going to end on this cool, epic thing of all the armies getting ready. But then the music cuts out. It's back to Northwind. Again, just the kind of somber, cold snow flats. And we'll see the Death Singer riding on some horse across the snow flats. Very small figure in a really wide, still shot. You just see a little figure move across the snowfields. Then he makes it to Hailstone. He kind of hurries into Hailstone and runs up some stairs and gets into the big courtyard, and he just kind of stops. The camera slowly kind of spins around, revealing what he's seeing. Kind of falls on his knees. And realizes all the Voltars are dead. He was too late. And I think I was even going to have a bit where, like, I thought I was going to show a tear here. I wanted to show us a few tears at one point. Like, it would have been hard to animate, but it would have been worth it. I feel like having just showing, especially someone like what seemed like the main antagonist of the series of Death Singer, seeing him like actually like some tears coming out for once. Even he, has a very emotional side and has things he cares about. And now that he lost everyone, basically his whole plan just got screwed up. Everyone in all the people who went in with him to fight in the Nether was Lucidius and Delthius. Both of them died. The rest of the Voltars who stayed here that were gonna like hopefully kill the Nether guys here and then be safe, they all got killed because the Nether came through. So at this moment he realizes that was it. He just lost everyone. He lost his whole Voltars clan is gone now. He's the last. So what a kind of fitting, interesting way to have a cliffhanger before the finale is that it's like focusing on the Death Singer and the Death Singer's troubles and the Death Singer's sorrow, and that of course is you'll see as one of the big climaxes of the series is about the whole Death Singer and the reveal on who he really was and everything. Episode 10, big finale. This is like a triple episode. This script episode was long. I'm going to zoom through kind of a fair amount of this. So they burrow through. They come out in Solomon's little potion room. They come into his potion room, which is nice because that ends up they get to use the potions in battle, which makes them a little stronger. They go out and confront Solomon. Solomon is all like trying to defend himself. Ends up falling over his little balcony 20 feet straight down. Excuse me. God, I'd like to edit all the burps out, but I also don't want to edit a 4-hour video or whatever, so you have to just deal with the burps. So that Crown Peak, they come through his, let's turn shaders back on, let's set the mood. The lighting here would have been, that's another thing worth mentioning, a lot of the lighting in Season 3, and even Season 2 would have been a lot of like overcast, a lot of like storms and stuff, because for the undead to be out, it needs to be kind of dark. It would have just fit seeing all these really dark skies, and then you can have the glowing fire and stuff. Let's do like a 1100. Yeah, let's try 1200. Yeah, okay, imagine this, but imagine it actually being darker. I don't want to actually set it to like wet. If I turn the weather on, it starts snowing and ruins the map and stuff. But anyway, so yeah, a little bit of lag. It's probably gonna crash or something. Oh, it did. So they come out in the potion room. There it goes. They come out in the potion room. They go confront Solomon. We had talked about them killing Solomon, but it just seemed weird having either Rhea or Sen kill Solomon. He wasn't a fighter, so they wouldn't have like fought Solomon. But having them just like kill this unarmed older guy seemed weird. So we thought it makes sense. He actually kills himself to his own. He goes on about how I got this nicest house. It's really great. It's got these great views, and then he ends up dying by his own, rich house with giant views, and high heights and stuff. And again, like that whole episode 5 thing, we get some contrast between the dramatic episode to come. Right at the beginning, we get to introduce with a bit more kind of fun Greg stuff where they try to take some potions, but then we see that Greg's species has like reverse effects of potions, so it gets all weird and gets kind of comedic. Fighting happens, stuff's going on in the Nether. We see Saxon and Trevor still alive, they're being prisoners, so they are still alive. Pythus has the nice little bits where it's like, do you know how this axe was damaged? And because there's that nice like indent scratch on the blade with this big cut in it. Saxon does mean the usual, like, yeah, we're gonna find out, and very just nonchalant. He starts giving some a little bit of backstory between like the kind of conflict between them. Starts killing finds the remaining dragon eggs here and starts destroying them. But then Volcanus shows up with Abigail and Luna. They fight. So she kept the crown, and the crown. Yeah, so she keeps the crown, and then, as long as we're gonna oppose you, puts her helmet on, and then this time the crown lights back up. So that's the kind of the thing people were sometimes, that some of the editors were confused about the whole like failing the Ender trials, and that's what I mean about like this is where she passed the Ender trial. This was the point in which she fully passed the Ender trials. Here she is coming back, standing up for the End, defending the End against these Nether, and that's when she truly becomes passes the test. All the stuff prior was just kind of like the setup. So they fight, cool big fighting here. Oh, here we go. This was the stuff I was talking about. Oh no, never mind. No, it's not. Never mind. At some point, we see what happens to the other kingdoms and how they kind of liberated themselves. I don't know where that was. I must have skipped past that. Fighting everywhere, literally just fighting everywhere. Fighting in Crown Peak. There's a lot of stuff outside Crown Peak, and this is why we actually had to. Initially, Crown Peak was all in the walls, and there's almost nothing out. We had to add some bit of the city outside the walls. Imagine all these trees kind of missing, have been cut down or burned down. Imagine a lot of these houses kind of like destroyed or emptied or flattened. And then, of course, all the lava stuff. So all the protagonists are trying to now assault Crown Peak from the outside, but there's a little force that's snuck through on the inside. Sen, Rhea, some other, Greg, Grim, some other people, Borgin. Greg's thing finally wears off. A bunch of stuff happened. I don't want to read all this stuff, so I'm probably going to miss some things. Val kills Angel of Death at one point. That was cool. Because they're both flying people. She uses her cool little arm blades, cuts his wings off, and he actually falls to his death. Nice fitting end to him. Then there's a bit where it's like, okay, we're kind of starting to lose a bit. We need to turn the beacon on now. Because they have all the army still at Carthen. That was where everyone went back and retreated back to Carthen from like Meridian and Flora. All the people who survived there are back in Carthen, since very fortified and the beacon's still been off. So they have the army ready to beacon in. That was their hope, to sneak in, turn the beacon on, bring in the army from the inside, just like kind of Nether did. But because things are starting to go bad already, they have to kind of advance their things early, do it a little sooner, use it as a kind of distraction to get the Withers to kind of come back. But they think they'll be able to defend the platform. So they move in, they send some Elytras in. This was funny, this little Elytra bit was added late, because when we started scripting this, Elytras weren't even in Minecraft. That shows you how long we've been working on this project, is that when we were at the end of the script and Elytras were like announced and introduced, we were like, oh, we should work in a little scene later in the series where we get to use Elytras. So that shows you how way back we started writing all this stuff, how long it's been ago. So they work down towards the courtyard. They do manage to get to the courtyard. Yeah, so they put the Nether Star in. Oh, that's right. All the poor Felina team. There's a bunch of the Felinas because they're lightweight, using the Elytras, and they all. There's one of those nice pushes where like a bunch of them are flying in, but they're all getting killed. They'll drop the Nether Star. Another one picks it up, carries it a little further. Very what is that? There's like a scene in a movie or a game where it's like that, where a bunch of these people are trying to get this thing, and it's almost like in Rogue One at the end, where they got the plans, and they're all getting like killed, and they're passing the plans through. Everyone's dying and trying to get the Nether Star there. Pretty much all of them died, but one of them finally does make it to the Nether Star, to the beacon, puts it in. So they think, oh good, the beacon's on. Just gonna start bringing all the Magnerites. But then, problem is the interesting thing that like they hadn't considered, viewers probably hadn't considered, is then the Withers decide, rather than just turning around and then like waiting at the beacon, the Withers decide just to destroy the beacon, forget the beacon. They'd rather lose the beacon than have the army come through. So they start attacking the beacon, and everyone's surprised, like, oh, they weren't expecting that. So everyone kind of falls back a bit. They end up blowing the beacon up, and the poor Magnerites, who are the people from, or not just Magnerites, but a lot of the ones in Carthen who are coming, are like in that cool beacon warp thing we saw Thales and Sen in. As it like the beacon destroys on one side, then they have no longer destination and they just get like warped apart into some non-existence, which is a pretty terrifying thought, but also cool visually. And then the beacon blows up, and the idea for the beacon blowing up would have been this just crazy, like the beacon sputtering energy, and then blows this entire like courtyard up. This whole thing blows up, and it's almost like an anti-gravity kind of field it's created, and all these just big chunks of the concrete and these walls are all kind of floating around in the air as if just some really crazy like spatial time warping stuff had happened from how powerful those beacons were. And because that's what happens when you mess with some weird space-time beacon thing. I thought that would be a really cool way to get a nice big visual epic moment in this finale. There's one bit where I haven't gotten there yet. Back in the Nether, lots of fighting. Sorry, not the Nether. Back in the end, both Volcanus and Abigail have been fighting Pythis. That's why we had to design. This is the whole reason we designed his axe, to have a bit of a like blade at the bottom as well. He's got a little bit of a kind of sharp bit at the bottom, so he can fight both of them in this fit. And he's really good with this sword, or his axe. He's keeping both of them at bay at once. He does injure Abigail again really bad. Volcanus, and then Volcanus does something, and he picks up the Ender Blade. And right before Pythis is able to kill Abigail while she's down, Volcanus is holding both the Nether and the Ender Blades, both of which are then active. And then Pythis is kind of shocked, and that like, whoa, that's impossible. You're Natharan. Why is the Ender Blade active for you? And then he has this nice line, there's much about our worlds that you have yet to learn. And then he starts fighting Volcanus using both blades. And I always thought that was cool, because that was another one of those things where I wanted to still leave a lot of this universe beyond, this series was the introduction to the world of Songs of War. I had hoped that, this series would do so well, and then we could do the 3 seasons, and then after the 3 seasons we could tell standalone stories, we could tell new little mini-series, we could tell little single episodes, we could tell like a larger movie thing. So setting all this stuff up, so I needed to leave a lot of this stuff kind of still open, still mysterious. I didn't want to just have everything wrapped up. So this was an idea that, the Ender Blades, what does it mean to like glow for the user? Is it mean they are an Ender Knight, they are an Ender Queen, or is it more like this is a person kind of worthy to use this blade to help defend the end? And it's weird, but he's also using the Nether Blade, which means he's using that blade to defend the Nether. So simultaneously, both blades think he's worthy to, it's interesting to think about. I don't want to go too into it, because it's those things that it's intentionally supposed to be a mystery or something. But then it also makes you wonder how much Volcanus knows, because he kind of says this line almost as if he maybe knows even more than he's telling and stuff. But that's all a mystery that we'll take to our graves, because I don't actually know where that was going fully much. But I just thought it was cool. And it leaves that opportunity where you can think about what it could mean. I have some ideas what it might mean. But anyway, a bit of a highlight here. This is actually a bit where, this is a good example. There were bits where I just absolutely knew I was going to rewrite. This one I actually just left highlighted because I knew I was going to rewrite it. Anyway, Volcanus then, and another bit where then Pythis confronts him, and not Pythis, sorry, doesn't confront him. Pythis is kind of a little lower down. He's injured. Volcanus could go for the kill, could probably go down there and probably finish him off. But meanwhile, Abigail's dying. And then Pythis is kind of trying to like twist him, like, look how twisted you've become, you've forgotten your own people and stuff. And then he was going to have some nice line here, which is probably what I was highlighting, about something about, there's something's more important than just getting revenge and stuff. Because he does care for people beyond, like, Pythis doesn't really seem to care about anyone. So then he turns around, leaves Pythis for a moment to go save Abigail, which is more little volcanic gale ships, which is why I mentioned to people in the Discord a long time ago, I always thought the Volcanus-Abigail relationship was one of my favorites, because it wasn't a relationship, and it doesn't turn into a relationship. They're not like, they're dating at the end, they're married. But they have a nice kind of dynamic where they really like each other, maybe. But maybe not, because they also kind of hate each other, which is... And they're kind of they're like frenemies and they're enemies, because they're Nether and could never be together. It's almost like Shakespearean, kind of Romeo and Juliet. So yeah, he goes away to help her. Back in the courtyard, he gets some cool bit of hair by and like uses all the floating chunks. It's like jumping between these floating chunks, which gets him higher up in the air. Then he would have been like around here, climbing up on the floating bits and takes out a wither, kills one. Some more lighter teams come in of Val's drawing. They're trying to kill stuff. Oh, here's an interesting bit. Where is it? So all at once, all four of them fire like each of their aggressive songs: Sen, Rhea, Val, and Hubris. And then when they all fire them like right in sync, just kind of accidentally, all at these withers, and then it does this weird effect that none of them were expecting, none of the viewer would be expecting, where all the sounds. You'll notice all the songs when you activate, you hear a little note, and you hear like the effect, or the. Every single one of those is a different note. And the idea I always had from the beginning was that the songs, they play this little musical note when you activate the song, and then when you hear a bunch of like songs being fired, you hear all the little, which is kind of why there's this kind of musical a musical meaning behind the songs. Them being named songs wasn't just completely random. There was this kind of like musical element to them where they have like these notes, and the idea here is that four of them in this one category all like fired at once, which created like a harmonized the songs, and then like worked together to create like a big super song, which then just does this crazy last, and I think it killed two withers at once, I think, and then they're all just kind of standing there like which is cool. And just like I was saying before, the whole Nether Enderblade stuff, I left things like the Nether kind of and stuff a little mysterious in case we want to explore that in future things, and I left things like the songs mysterious to explore in future things. I always imagined something like Sen would be kind of reading into that and trying to learn more about what they had done, because no one had ever really discovered that about songs. There's some new just like the beginning of the prologue, there's many mysteries about this world, about Ardonia, and one of the biggest mysteries is the songs, and they're still learning new things about the songs to this day, which is cool. So they go to the end. Volcanus saves Abigail, uses the little end things again, the little end light things, which I don't want to just become little cop-out blocks. Every time like someone's about to die, you just use the little ender crystal, but once again, it just made sense again. And I think it worked here, because once again, it didn't save her, then she killed Pythis. It saved her, but they had to sacrifice and leave Pythis. Pythis now is left at the end. Back in the overworld, last little bit, this is the bit where Sen was mentioning how he's going to go help after the war's over. He's going to help Krek look for more Jags and stuff, which is one of the main story ideas I had post Songs of War. One of the first things I was going to do if I finished Songs of War Season 3 would have been a story where Sen and mostly focusing on Greg, looking for the other Jags and stuff. So this was actually kind of baiting that story a little bit. But I also was trying to make it start seeming here like someone was going to die, but you weren't quite sure who, because he's starting to be like, oh, remember what we're going to do? We're going to do this thing once the war's all over. So you're thinking, oh, maybe Greg's going to die, or maybe it's Sen. But then Hebrews is like, oh no, it's you got to worry about, you're going to be worried if you're here, like Deathsinger, the Pythos might show up or something. Deathsinger might show up. We haven't seen Deathsinger yet, and no one. So you're not quite sure who's going to die. And then Hebrews delivers this nice line that, for people who hadn't quite got it yet, the idea that literally, that's what I was saying earlier, how Rhea had basically become the new Tidesinger. Tidesinger was just a name. Tidesinger wasn't a person. Tidesinger was a name given to Achillean Saurus during the First Great War. But this time in the Second Great War, Rhea was the one who, after her village was destroyed, she created this faction, the Knights of Ardonia, tried to get all these different species together, tried to get everyone working together. She tried organizing everything, and she really was, that's what the Tidesinger was. And you kind of don't quite realize that till at this point, oh wow, yeah, she really was. She'll be the one they'll mention as the Tidesinger and stuff eventually. But no one else really had been, and that's what Hebrews mentions. It's everyone's still calling Achillean the Tidesinger, because that's his name, the Tidesinger, call him the Tidesinger. But Hebrews has this moment where he kind of lets Rhea know how he always saw Rhea as this new Tidesinger. It was her who brought everyone together, including him. And then of course he has that nice line, and then Pythos returns to the Crown Peak. He can't use the beacon, so he has to come through from the side. But because the most of the Knights of Ardonia had gone through like one of the Nether portals into the Nether to help free some of the Nether slaves. Then they're not really well defended. Val's like, take cover. Withers blast the portal. Grek pushes Hubris pushes Grek through or something. And then we're not quite sure what happens. They're really injured. It's going like crazy. Hubris slowly trying to help Sen and Rhea get into like cover as they're both kind of knocked out. Hubris getting hit by arrows. Val, I think it's kind of like shot down, kind of not like she hits, falls in the sky. She's not dead. Hubris charges towards Pythis, and then Pythis kills Hubris, which we realized Pythis hadn't killed like anyone, so it made sense that he would get killed by that. And also Hubris, I think, kind of fulfilled his main role in the series. He got what he was supposed to do. He gets taken down. Pythis gets to see an actual kill. Sorry, I'm drinking again. Okay. Pythis here confronts them. Oh, here's where Hubris tries to rush forward and Oh, there's a bit where all of them fight him. I forgot about that. Okay, so before Hubris dies, yeah, that got changed. Initially, Hubris ran right at the beginning, died, and then Sen and Rhea were kind of recovering, and then it was them. I forgot I changed that to all three of them simultaneously are fighting Pythis. He's taking on 3 Ardoni. Rhea's using prime songs. They're each using their own songs. Sen's got Thalius' blade now. He's got Thalius' teleport. He's got a good shield song he's pretty good with now. And even still, like, Pythis is just taking on all 3 of them. Then he kills Hubris. Kills him with the axe. Kills him. He dies. His lights fade out. His little song leaves behind. And then Pythis getting a little tired from having to follow them. And this was the line that really, like, wraps up the series for me, kind of about this whole, like, this series was all about these songs, the songs of war, these ones you use in battle, these great abilities that make you powerful, and the prime songs were the most powerful, and the Death Singer wanted these prime songs, blah, 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 blah. And that was kind of this big distraction of, like, yeah, these songs are so powerful, but as Pythis says, what does that really mean? You have these things that are so much more powerful, but the Ardoni die just like everyone else. You can wield the prime song and die like those who don't wield the prime songs. It's not just like a weapon that makes you powerful. And Gressis thought like the prime songs make him. So he has this whole like idea that the idea of power is just the illusion by making someone seem powerful, like the Death Singer, by saying they called him Death Singer, and by giving him the name Death Singer, he seems like he was this powerful, unstoppable thing. But even he, of course, we'll see in a moment, isn't. But then Pythis believes, of course, he's the most powerful, which again is also part of the illusion. But then, here, Wither die, turns around. The Death Singer's here, just filled with a rage of having his whole Voltaris people killed. The music is super epic. He charges Pythis, and then we get a crazy, like, he just Mobilium gets a good speed in, boom, they just hit it running, they're fighting, then crazy intense fight, like the kind of Tide Singer versus Death Singer one at the end of season 1. There's just crazy fight. Their fight takes them like up the staircase, cool, nice, epic lighting. The sun might have been like really low, like breaking through the clouds or something. Epic choir music. They work their way up here, and then in their fight, there's this bit where Death Singer pushes back with a song. Pythis does strike Death Singer, which injures him, but then Death Singer does this like really cool maneuver or something, then they collide, and there's this like kind of silence, and there's this like kind of wide shot of these silhouettes just kind of staying there, and it would have been a really nice shot of like right here, the camera would have been here, the sun would have been kind of around there, because it needs to be down there in just a little bit, so the sun would have already been there, and you would have just seen Death Singer, Pythis. Because the light was behind him, they would just be these almost black shapes where like the light and exposure was just these 2 dark shapes. You're not quite sure who killed who. And then slowly Pythis would fall over dead, I think. What was it? Pythis, yeah, then Pythis staggers. And then he falls over, so you realize, okay, Death Singer killed him. And then Death Singer kind of like supports himself on the sword. So you get that little foreshadowing that he's not going to be making it. Back down to Sen and Rhea, who had been really injured in the fight against Pythis. Sen then decides to run up to confront Death Singer, not realizing Death Singer's good or anything yet. He's going to go up there and try to stop him. Rhea sees that and is like, Initially he has some dialogue here, we'll cut that out. So he runs up expecting to fight Deathsinger, even though he's all injured and he's not going to make it. Sen's holding the sword, he's getting ready, the music's like he's going to go fight him, and then it kind of stops. And once again, we get this shot of kind of Deathsinger still standing there, still kind of supporting himself on his sword, the big cool sword, and there's a little bit of blood dripping. And he moves his hand, oh no, that's later, he moves the hand away later. We see a bit of blood dripping, we don't quite, and his hand's against the chest, but we don't see what happens yet. And then Deathsinger starts having these lines where it's like, it pleases me to know you're alive. But then Sen not quite realizing it, still, Deathsinger, this is the end. Ow, that was my knee. I had to sit up on my desk. And Deathsinger's like, he's like, this is the end. This is the end for you. I'm going to stop you. But then he realizes, Deathsinger's just saying, yes, I'm afraid it is. Then that's when he removes his... Oh no, he drops his sword. First thing, he just drops his sword and then boom, kind of clangs to the ground. So Sen's then kind of like, what? Where's the fight? Still doesn't quite realize how he's injured fully yet. Then Deathsinger starts letting him know about the whole, how he's the last one and soon you'll be the last one. Sen doesn't quite believe him yet. He's still kind of like, how does this happen? What do you mean? So then Deathsinger starts trying to give Sen Voltar, so trying to hand him the staff. Sen's kind of a little confused, like, please take it. And here's the big final revelation of Songs of War, the whole series, what everything's kind of been building to, is this kind of moment here onwards for a bit, is then, in this part, I hope this made sense in the script, because this was pretty cool. As Deathsinger passes Sen the staff, Voltar, he would have been here, and he gives him the staff. Oh, I also... Slight pause. Before I go into this backstory, I realized I didn't bring up any of the, new character stuff. Last behind the scenes I showed some characters. I'm going to see if we have any characters that were introduced this season. I think actually most of them were introduced in Season 2. Other than maybe Volcanus, and I don't know if I pull up... There's Volcanus with his really cool sword. All happy dude, he'll smile. Volcanus was... We try to make him a lot lighter on some of the lava colors. If you look at Pythus has a lot of orange and stuff, whereas Volcanus was a lot more minimized, nice big gem kind of thing in the middle. And then Scorch had this cool... He had this kind of weird looking hat thing, and then he had this cool double split blade thing. I don't think there were any other characters that were... Season 3 didn't really introduce too many new characters. It was mostly just kind of introducing some of the Nether. Anyway, I just wanted to pull that up because I realized I didn't do it. Is the Deathsinger? The Deathsinger. Where is he? Okay. So anyway, so that's why I wanted to pull up. So there's the staff, Voltar, and there's his sword. So he drops the sword, he's still holding the staff. So he hands the staff to Sen. And we'll see this side-on view of Deathsinger passing Voltar to Sen. And right as Sen takes it, it cuts to a flashback, a memory being passed on to Sen. So then, and the shot is the exact same shot, but it's then Dominus handing the staff to Deathsinger, handing Voltar after that. So the idea is that every time a clan master passes on the staff to the next in line, the next master, which again isn't a blood related thing. It's not you're my son, you're now the next master. They can choose their own masters. But whenever the previous master chooses a new master and hands it to them, they inherit all the previous memories from the previous master's life, because they when they hand it off, and potentially, maybe not quite as much so, but I also like the idea that potentially is they also inherit from even the previous masters before them, kind of. Although I'm not quite as... I feel like that one would be more fuzzy. You get maybe little flashes, little memories, and maybe feelings of the older clan masters. But for the previous clan master, you get their full memory from the moment they became master to their end. And the idea was that the masters kind of inherit the knowledge of their previous master, and that kind of helps them pass down ancestry and traditions and stuff throughout them, which was cool, because that fit in the lore, but also helped really explain all these things, Deathsinger, when getting Voltar, would learn about all the stuff that happened to his clan in the past, and then now Sen getting it gets to learn Deathsinger's story and that he was telling the truth and stuff. So passes it to him, And now we're back at the beginning of Season 2, that kind of weird, mysterious battle in the snow we saw that wasn't explained, wasn't ever mentioned again, really, other than briefly when he was talking to Sen a little bit earlier this season. Now we're seeing the full battle, we're seeing Dominus actually get some dialogue, and Dominus is handing it to him, saying, like, take Voltaren, go, run, you're now the master, get out of here. And I think then, I don't have a set for this, it would have been somewhere in the snowy mountains, we see Deathsinger takes the staff and starts kind of running a bit, but then Thalius shows up over the hill, as the champion, as the warrior. He's been killing that little safe haven of Voltaris, confronts Dominus. Dominus was using the big sword, the one that Achillean will be using. Sorry, not Achillean, Ingressus. Deathsinger. Thalius ends up killing Dominus, but then Ingressus, I don't think this might not have been in the script. Yeah, this wasn't in the script. This was going to be adjusted a little bit. What was going to happen was, Ingressus was told to run, but he didn't want to watch his people die, even though he was quite young. And when he saw Dominus killed by Thalius, he was going to run over, pick up the sword, and try to fight Thalius as a little kid, but he can barely swing the sword. He tries it, but then Thalius would have shot him with a song or something, and it knocks him off the edge of the cliff, and he falls way down into the icy cold water. Then Thalius just assumes, I must have killed him or something, and he wasn't going to jump down in icy cold water, so he thought he got him. Which is also interesting, again, going back to what I was saying about the whole Thalius thing. Now we're kind of seeing Thalius as a villain from Deathsinger's point of view. Thalius just killed his clan, killed his father, almost killed him, and then shot him off the edge, and he was he was the quote-unquote champion that was going around that everyone feared, using these Prime songs against them. So definitely sheds a different light on Thalius once you know all that. But then he falls down in the icy water, and then we see him slowly drifting in the water. If I pull the map open, I think the battle would have been right around here. He would have landed in the water, floated kind of down the coast to Nestoria. And I actually do have a place for this, because I had to rebuild Nestoria right when we started doing the prologue, because I realized I needed to make sure Nestoria was going to look really nice for all these this flashback scene with Achillean and Deathsinger growing up. So I totally renovated Nestoria with all this stuff in mind. That way it'd work for this stuff. So we see some of this stuff, and some of these little bits of this story were teased very briefly in the beginning of Season 2. I think a few of these shots were shown just to kind of start teasing that there was this kind of ongoing story. But read the story. Excuse me, man. Let me get some more water. It's 3 hours and 20 minutes. I'm hoping to really wrap this up in 10 minutes. Keep it shorter than the last one. The last one was 4 hours. If this one's shorter than the last one, that's good, though, because the last one was long, and this is actually a longer season, so if I get it shorter, that's actually better pace. Let's zoom through this. There's nothing much to say here. You can read it. The two characters kind of grew up together. One of them trained the other one to use songs, one of them trained him to use swords, or a bit of both or something, and one of them trained him to fish or something. They grew up together. Deathsinger didn't really have anyone. Aegis found this young Voltaris who was outcasted, didn't want to just kill him, so Aegis kind of hid him by turning him into Nestoris colors so no one would kill him, and then they would kind of help him so he wouldn't die. Then they ended up raising him, so then they raised him as a Nestoris, so Deathsinger actually grew up most of his life with Aegis and Tidesinger and all them. It wasn't really till not too long ago in his life that the Great War happened, and then he went through the portal and stuff, so that's all pretty recent to him, his whole life with these guys. So they can train, they learn. I had this cool bit here where they would have gone all these little areas. I made sure they were actually player parkourable. You can, as a player, run around all these and work your way here. If you parkour across those, up here, I think you have to climb up some vines here. You climb up the vines, get up here. You can work your way all the way over here. You can do this on foot without flying, and then there's this nice little place where they trained here. Could have gotten some really pretty lighting. Let's go time set 100. Really pretty lighting. The camera could have been panning around during training stuff. This cool views. What if I go really far back and yeah. Nope, stop. There we go. The sun's really pretty, and they're here fighting. Not fighting, but they got wooden swords. But I was also going to show Tidesinger fighting
using not using a wooden sword quite as much. Sometimes he uses a sword. Sometimes I was going to have him. It start transitioning to him using like a big wooden stick, which would explain why he ended up using like staff. He has this big stick he's using with 2 hands. So that all happens. They get older, and then there's a bit where there's a turn. Then it takes you to the point where he's quite older. This is right before the Great War kind of started. Yeah, and then there's a tournament happening. So then Tidesinger encourages him to join it. Tidesinger was the one who tells Deathsinger, like, yeah, you should join that thing. If you join the tournament, and if you win, then if you show everyone that, hey, I'm Voltaris, then then maybe they won't want to kill you quite as much, and you'll kind of regain your clan. And that was the thing that everyone keeps asking. Wow, if Deathsinger only hadn't revealed himself, he could have taken the Prime Songs, then revealed himself. But that wasn't like the point. Deathsinger didn't really go there for the Prime Songs. He initially went there to win the tournament, show that he had the ability to take the Prime Songs, but instead choose to not do that just yet, and show everyone that he was Voltaris and he meant them no harm. That was his plan. He wanted to, if he took the Prime Songs and then became Voltaris, that would have kind of skewed his message, and then people would still fear his clan and stuff. But he wanted to reveal that first, and that's why if you look back in Season 1, there's all that. If you rewatch Season 1, knowing all this, that little bit at the tournament, you can see like him reveal. You can see the Tidesinger look shocked, everyone else is shocked about it except for Tidesinger. He's looking sad because he's seeing that people might not give it to him. Then you can see everyone turn and go, and Aegis kind of slowly looks sad and leaves, realizing that people aren't going to forgive the Voltars and stuff, but also not wanting to reveal that he was on his side or whatever. So then we get this. We see bits of that. We actually see some of the flashback again. We see some of that prologue scenes that we've seen in the prologue, but in real time now. And then it goes slightly later after he's now back up to kind of where his current age. He got denied them. He fought. Some of the age here I actually realized didn't quite make sense. That should have been normal age because this was right before the war. And then we get a nice confrontation. Now we get to see what really happened between him and Aegis, and how he confronted Aegis. And there's a bit here where I had this nice. I built that little place with that in mind. He's fighting Aegis up here, knocks Aegis down, and has this nice lines here where he's like, Aegis, you taught me that the Ardonia might be forgiving, and I can redeem my clan and stuff. But that was all wrong. Like, if you ever want to hear some really good dialogue, if you downloaded those Song Dwarf files, my favorite line in the whole series, as far as like the voice acting performance, was this scene here from the Deathsinger. These 2 lines were so good. The person who played Deathsinger was so in the mood, in the voice, in the emotion, in these lines. It was so well acted. If you ever want to just give it a listen, it's crazy hearing how like the emotions he felt and stuff. If you're confused about the voice lines, there should be trimmed lines and then not trimmed lines. The not trimmed ones are just like their submissions. They have all the lines. The trimmed ones were me choosing the ones I was planning to use. So the trimmed ones is the ones I liked. Anyway, so he's almost about to kill him, but then Aegis is like, look, these are all your people you killed. This was your clan as well, the Nestoris. And then he kind of turns and sees it all burning, and then he has the moment where he kind of really is trying to realize what he's done. And he has this one line here: "Only now do I understand why." And it was kind of supposed to be a little vague, like, what understand why? What understand? Huh? The way I saw that was, only now does he fully kind of understand why the Prime Songs have been these big problem. Why the clans, when they first made the Prime Songs or discovered them or whatever, when the Voltars first discovered the Prime Songs, why the other clans took them, why the other clans used them as the weapons and stuff, why they wouldn't give it to him. Only now does he understand why, because he now realizes that the songs have made him do horrible things that he never would have normally done. That's what that line I thought was supposed to kind of mean, and then he kind of understands that. But then Killian shows back up and tries to stop him, not realizing Deathsinger wasn't going to kill him, so then Deathsinger flees. And then, of course, Deathsinger does still continue to want the songs, but at least he has that moment where now he kind of fully knows what it's all about. And that's why later he says about how even he was corrupted by him and stuff. Then it kind of flashes forward. We see the bits where he meets back up with Volcanus. We see the stuff. We see all the things. And then we actually flash forward through his life after the Great War and the stuff that's been happening in the series where he fights Achillean and a bit where he kills Achillean and Achillean's death. We see some things that we didn't even originally see. Oh, this was the bit. Like, we see a little beyond that bit where Achillean dies and how the Death Singer was kind of picking Achillean up in the snow and actually looking more sad, which we didn't quite get back then to show that even he really didn't want to kill him. And then we even see memories of him actually giving Achillean like a proper funeral out of Northwind, burns him and stuff on a little pier, a funeral pier. And he even lights the little stones that have the little markings. He lights it and puts it way out on one of these like snowy beaches, kind of out in the middle of Northwind, where no one else would kind of disturb it. Something. So he does give Achillean the kind of proper ending, and then we also see this bit. This little line was thrown in to help. I think the editors were mentioning early on that it was confusing that Volcanus was working with them and how that happened. So we added this little bit of dialogue about a moment where Death Singer and Volcanus are in Northwind and they're having a little private meeting, and once again Death Singer's like, my clan will be fine, I'm going to be the one who'll do it. Showing how Death Singer, this whole time, he was the one who always put himself first, always was doing it for his clan. He was taking the risk to try to help his people and stuff. And then we got more flashes forward. Then we go from stuff like that to then seeing like the bit at Hailstone where everyone was dead and the last episode ended and all the dead. Then finishes, Sen takes the staff. It goes back to real time and Sen suddenly realizes like, oh snap, like now he realizes what everything was, what it all had happened. And then that's where we get the big tragic death scene. To me, this was the most emotional bit of the whole story for me, and definitely the most my favorite like death scene, the most tragic scene. And what's interesting to me, well, it's interesting, but it's also is definitely intentional from the beginning. I'm very big on my villains. People know that from my past projects. I really like to make sure my villains are interesting, even more so than protagonists sometimes. Villains shouldn't be just kind of boring and bland. So it's interesting that the most tragic death, the most sad scene, is when the main villain dies, or what seems like the main villain. You know, they called him Death Singer. He was the main villain, but he gets like the most emotional death scene of everyone. Tidesingers was kind of a shocking surprise. Kyoshi's was pretty tragic. Kyoshi's was like the second most tragic, but Death Singer gets the really emotional one, the emotional music, emotional setting, and then he's like surprised they're all gone. This is where he says, and soon I will join them, and that's when he finally removes his arm, revealing like his. I would have had to modify the skin a bit, showing him kind of injured, and now Sen finally realizes what had happened and what's wrong. Death Singer has his emotional lines. You all read that. I don't need to kind of go through all that again. But then Sen finally decides he'll restore the clan and stuff. He says he'll I didn't know if I was going to actually have him turn red here or not. I think I was going to have him not. I think I decided having Sen turn red, but then I thought it might be almost a bit distracting and kind of break from the. Although it made sense, I thought it might be weird. Suddenly people were like, "Oh, weird, Sen looks red now," and to kind of break the emotional moment. So I think I'm going to just kind of leave him white. But he does say he's going to, restore the clan. And then Death Singer finally, after all this time, even he's the one who's almost breaking into tears, just from kind of like happiness. Even though he thought almost everything was lost, he realizes Sen will kind of carry on the Voltaris thing, which is again is sad. And now he finally, after finally falling down to his knees, no longer. He'd always been standing. He'd always been. I'm getting emotional just saying this. This scene is emotional. What I was saying earlier about the whole he was always standing. He was always standing up. He never wanted to sit down. He could never rest because at any moment, his clan always needs him. His people have been suffering, and he wants to help his clan. And finally, now, after they're all dead, but after Sen says, he'll and he's about to die, and Sen finally says, I'll help the clan. I'll carry on. He finally realizes he can rest. He can finally, move on. And I'm getting real emotional saying this. I'm gonna have a drink of water and think about the most happy thoughts about Grim. Grim shows up, goes. Anyway, so then he looks out and he's just kind of sitting here, and he's looking out at this nice sunset, and he has his final line. And that line's been a long time writing that one to make sure it gets that nice kind of finality to it about the sun. He sees the sun kind of breaking through the clouds. They've been still pretty dark. And the sun, nice big warm red sunset, and the color of his clan. He's glad to see it set one more time, which is also kind of symbolic as the sun setting. He dies, and there would have been this nice final shot here where the shot would have just kind of stayed like here, kind of or so, and you would have seen him just kind of like kneeling. Those flags would all been long gone, so those wouldn't be in the way. There would have been a nice view, and he would have just been kind of sitting there kneeling, and the sun slowly, and he would have been kind of there, and the camera would have kind of held for a moment, and then he would have slowly just slumped over, and the camera would have continued holding, maybe slowly moving back. And it just continues holding. You think like, oh, it just slowly fades out, fades to black. That was the end. That was the end of the Death Singer. Very slow, and kind of music hangs. The music slowly ends. The wind just keeps playing as he falls over. And then it fades back in, and then we see a different place. And this was a thing we brainstormed a while. We were like, what are we going to follow that up with? What's going to happen next? So we thought, let's follow it up with some kind of like, some time had passed. You don't quite know what's going on. We see some young Ardonia kind of playing, and oh no, it's first Ardonia's just at a pier. We don't quite know what's going on. Fishing, and how did this little Ardonia fishing kind of like recall back to Killian, how he used to be a fisher, a peaceful fisherman. And then we see this place, and the camera kind of pulls up, revealing this Ardonia village, which we don't quite recognize yet, which would be Old Voltaria. I can actually warp to Old Voltaria. Old Voltaria is not finished. We started it. We got actually a fair amount of the let's do got a fair amount of the foliage and the custom trees in, but we definitely didn't finish like what everything's gonna be used. We had some of these big trees. Lots of ponds. Somewhere around here there's just some floating trees that we were using as pastables and stuff to paste in. But it's a pretty place. So then we would have seen like a little pond or something, and then they're rebuilding it. And there's these, you can see the places that they would be using to like burrow into and make their new little houses. So we're kind of unsure where we are, but of course in a moment we'll reveal it's Old Voltaria. And then we see two little Ardonia kids kind of play fighting, which was a callback to the very beginning of the series with kind of Sen and Rhea, showing that kind of a new generation is being born of new Ardonia, and the kind of the war is over and kind of new set. We get to, that was where we had the Kai Rhea as the kind of sign of respect. Some people thought these kids were Sen and Rhea's kids, but they weren't. Period. we even added a line here where it's like, go back to your parents that are in the fields right now, not me here in front of you. So we tried to add that line in to make it clear that it wasn't them, but some people still thought it was their kids. She also mentioned that nice little the line that Thalia said. Thalia said that line to them when they were play fighting or whatever. So then he tells that to these little kids and stuff. Or she tells that to the kids. And then we see Sen, who's looking over the grave. And then the camera moves away and we see it's the Death Singer's grave. So they put the Death Singer, Singer's grave here in Old Voltaria. Then the big narration begins. And at this point, it's basically series over. It's just a bunch of kind of them narrating. So we talked a while. At first, it was going to be Sen reading this final narration. Then we realized that it actually made more sense being Rhea. Rhea was kind of the Tide Singer. Then we thought it'd be nice, split it between both of them. Have both of them read the Walls of Time. And then you get this nice kind of mix. It also helps break up hearing one person's voice over and over. So they both start reading from the narration as they're heading north. So it's actually kind of going a little bit ahead as they read it. At the end, it does actually kind of like go back. So they're reading the Walls of Time. Not much to say here. This was all pretty clearly explained. They're just kind of given all the wrap up, have everything kind of resolved. I'm going to kind of read each little chunk. So they're reading the new Wall of Time. People rebuild. The kingdom's reunited again? Oh, no, I thought it said they like recombined. No. So the kingdoms were reunited again, no more like Carthan at war with something else. Yeah, then this bit kind of resolves the Carthan Cydonia stuff. We see some of that. We see that they're kind of helping revitalize Cydonia so they can kind of grow their... Because, yeah, there's that bit in Season 2 where they talk about how Cydonia used to be a little more fertile, And then Sidonia, Carthan came down and just kind of ruined their land, so now they're helping kind of rebuild the land and stuff. And then we get a little break from the narration to see what's happening with Luke and Nika. He built her a nice little tree fort. He gets a little kiss, Minecraft kiss, which we would have had to not really show and just kind of imply. They had Merlin's there. They were going to. I had this idea. We thought it'd be nice to have them invited to the final scene with everyone together. Initially, they were going to be there. We were going to have all the characters show up as this big reunion, Star Wars level ending. Everyone's around celebrating the end. We thought it didn't really make sense having quite everyone there. Luke and Nika, they were a little separate story. They didn't need to be there. They had their own little I think I just got settled in and stuff. So then they settled down here a little bit. Nice ending. Them kind of her leaning on his shoulder. Them kind of looking out over the Flora, pretty sunset over Flora and their new treehouse, showing the whole kind of place they finally saved from all the stuff they're trying to save it from. Sen then talks about the Ardonia and stuff, and how Sen circles with the masters, they hold their stabs together, something that the kind of clans are reunited a little more again. This was interesting. This was gonna all take place. I don't think I'll be able to find this. This scene here where all the clans met back up. It was supposed to take place in the exact same spot the opening shot took place in, where like the camera pans up and the Death Singer was on that hill, and the final shot of Songs of War was going to end right here at this kind of place. It was going to be Sen being initiated as a Voltaris again. This is where he finally becomes the Red Voltaris, and he was going to climb up onto that little hill where the Death Singer was fighting all the people in the ones, and he would have stood up there and looked out over all like the other clans. They were kind of watching him and people who came to celebrate. The camera, rather than the camera panning in towards him, it would have slowly started backing away. So kind of the reverse of the opening shot. Rather than there being a big battle, things would have been kind of healed, and the camera just slowly panned away as Sen stood on the hill, just like Death Singer did in the opening shot of the series, and then it would have ended. And while we liked that idea, we thought it was I felt a little just kind of like it just ended, kind of non-conclusive. The whole point of the series was about like setting up a big world with a cool adventure, and then when I just kind of end on this kind of note like that, I wanted to really have this whole like, this was really just the beginning to a larger world of stuff, and so that's why we kind of changed that and continued on a little more. So we kind of put this stuff anyway. My throat's starting to hurt again. I'm gonna speed through. Talked a little about the Ender Knights and how the Ender Knights are now kind of back in the end, and they're going around recruiting new people. There's a bit where was it? Yeah, they go around the world and they're kind of bringing these dragon eggs on these kind of like tours, basically, of the world, taking them to cities, letting people kind of go up to them and stuff, letting the eggs have opportunities to find new people to kind of be raised with. And there's a bit where then this girl kind of touches one and starts walking away. Then the camera would have revealed that like maybe it was starting to wake up for her, which also shows that the whole like female Ender Knight thing was kind of has since been no longer a thing. Somewhere in here, I think I might have scrolled past it already, something about the Prime songs and how the Prime songs were they were put in an Ender chest, or it wasn't even an Ender chest, because otherwise you could get them from other. They put it in some kind of chest, took it deep within the end, way on some like abandoned floating mountain in the middle of nowhere in the end, like on some little island, and just hid it there, locked up. So no one would ever be bothered with it. No one would ever access them again. No one would even really know where they are, except for maybe Abigail, who probably took them there. Every so often, I also broke up this big long final narration. I kind of broke up by having little moments where, we get Luke and Nika for a bit, then it goes back to narration. Then we get Abigail and, oh, right. Abigail also was reading some of the, Abigail read the bits about the Ender Knight stuff. Then we get the bits here where we get to hear all the Ender Knights kind of hanging out. Then they're going back to stuff. Volcanus has this kind of thing where he starts thinking like he's about to start revealing something, maybe about some of his feelings, and then Luna just tail smacks him into the portal. And Abigail's like surprised, and Luna just kind of like, oh yeah, whatever. Looking forward to animating a lot of the Luna stuff, because I wanted Luna to be very kind of toothless with a lot of very expressions and animation and stuff. Oh, here's where it says the Prime songs were kind of kept in there. Just concluded the Great War, blah blah. the Second Great War, 14th Wall of Time. I think the 12th, 14th. I don't know. I guess there's two things that happened since the First Great War and the Second Great War. I don't know what that was anymore. I thought I had all those walls figured out, but now I'm actually confused because I thought that would have been only this Cydonia Carthan thing was going to be on the walls between them. But I didn't think there was another thing. I don't know. I don't remember. Maybe it was just like leaving it open in case we wanted to add something else there. And then we go back to the Walls of Time and we realize that narration, just like the very beginning of Season 1, was not just a random narration, but it was them reading off the Walls of Time. They had gone there to see Nitsuki had helped write this new Wall of Time. They all read it over to see if it made sense, if they liked it, and Nitsuki was there, and which is good to see that Nitsuki still got to, stay as a chronicler and stuff, and try to, and unlike the previous chroniclers, she's helping try to fix things. She even mentions that we rewrote some of the old that's why it's 14th Wall of Time. They had to rewrite a few walls. They rewrote like the previous one to kind of better do the thinking, and they added a whole new one to kind of better explain the fall of the Voltars and stuff that all got completely left out. That whole bit of the chapter of history, the Ardonia clans never spoke of or anything, but they felt it was important, so they added a whole new wall. See, I did know my stuff when I wrote this series. I was making sure. It's just looking back at it, it looks like I wasn't. So that ends, then like the big narration kind of ends, then the music kind of ends, and we get a nice kind of moment, a good kind of quiet, peaceful reverence moment again, where Rhea standing out here looking over everything. Sen comes up. They have a bit of nostalgia talking about how like Thais used to tell these stories during his visits, and now they had actually gone on the things themselves. And once again the whole using storytelling as a thing in the story they're talking about as like a reference to the actual story of Songs of War coming to an end was something I did in one of my previous series, Rise of the Spartans. At the end, I used the concept of stories and storytelling as a way to kind of wrap up the actual story. I thought that was a really fitting way, because now they're talking about it and they're like, the worst part of those stories were all like the end and how things have to come. How can you go back after all these crazy adventures happen? You always wish there was something more, and that's, of course, what the viewer's thinking. Like, I wish there was something more. How's this going to happen? So I thought that was always a nice kind of fitting way to kind of hear them. But then, like Sen says, I think we're just getting started, like just to show that. And that was what I was trying to prove again. Like this Songs of War season 3 wasn't just the end of Songs of War. There's absolutely, I wanted to do a lot more. Then we get a little more narration. Rhea continues narrating. Some nice final lines. It's been a long time writing these final lines. Oof. I remember spending a long time on these. And then we get to see that I thought there's a bit where they mention. Where was that then? Did I skip that? Sorry, I swear there's a bit where they were talking about how there's like ever since they took over and like the main problems stopped. Oh, here we go. Wait, no, maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe it was just mentioned somewhere in the script. But basically, after the war ended, everything wasn't just la-di-da, we won. They were still like then things like, remember how Thales mentioned like, the undead have diminished greatly since over the past. The idea that like since the war ended, the undead also kind of started to dwindle. But now that this huge war happened, all these people died. Things like the undead are back on the rise. Lots of undead coming out at night. Things like bandits and mercenaries are using us to take advantage of like the absence of kind of rule, and everyone's kind of weakened and stuff. So at the end of the series, we see the kind of the Knights of Ardonia, the original kind of cast, like Rhea, Sen, Grek, Grim, Val. They're kind of hopping up on horses and stuff. They're getting ready to like go out, and they still got work to do. There's still adventures to deal with, and that's why she has the whole like we're the Knights of Ardonia, the ones that continue defending the world and stuff. And then they start riding off. We get to see a bunch of the memorials of a lot of the characters who had fallen, a lot of their graves and stuff, kind of wrapping up all the characters who fell throughout the series. Greg gets Soulseeker, and then he's the first one to start running, I think. He just starts running off, and then everyone starts getting their horses. They start riding off after Greg. Greg was, excited once it gets started. Abigail gets in the dragons flying over. You get this nice final shot of them kind of riding off on their horses, and it's probably would have been some field in like Old Voltaria or something. they're riding off. The camera would have slowly been pulling up, slowly raising up, seeing them ride off, and the dragons, flying overhead. Luna, and I guess just Luna and Abigail flying over top. Rick running along, and she has her final lines about how the story, they keep going on, and the story doesn't really end. And then we just see them slowly get further and further away, and then the camera just kind of stays, and we see them kind of riding off. And then the main Songs of War theme would come in, and the credits would just start coming up on that shot. It wouldn't have faded to black. It would the credits would have started, and that was the idea, that this kind of feeling of no, don't end. And then it's just the credits start coming, and they just slowly come over, and you get to keep watching them slowly get further away as the credits come in, and everything in the background slowly fades to black, as then it just becomes credits, and that's the end. Nice fitting way to kind of they're all riding off towards the end. And that's that. I don't have a spot for that. Not really a good fitting place to end the series. I don't really know where to stand. I did like the idea of it being I was going to try to make that final shot one of those ones, kind of like the first shot, where I really optimized the map to get that final shot, get a big wide distance render, so I could really pull the camera up slowly and really see far into the distance as they slowly get further and further away. Might have had to use the plains by Nestoria or something, just to get enough distance for the horses to run. There's a lot of problems with Minecraft like that. I had to deal with throughout this whole season 1. I would have had to continue dealing with all the if you ever want characters to walk up a hill, good luck. Climb, hop. You want people riding horses to go anywhere. Oh, not word for. You got to deal with all the awkwardness. So I've always had to make sure there's a perfectly flat terrain that everyone walks on, or horses ride on, or whatever. This would have been a decent place. Where am I? That's the hill. Okay, that's the hill. So there's the fields. Could have had them literally just at the edge of the big fields or something, and had them kind of slowly riding off in the camera. Maybe, probably would have put the sun over there behind the mountains. There's a bunch of big mountains up here. This is the Barrier Mountains. Could have had them kind of riding off. There's a bit where they do see Herobrine at the end. He was kind of watching him, and he kind of just little nods or something, and then the lightning strikes away. Show that he was still watching. And that's it. The end of the series. End of the series. Good commemoration for the fallen. Good potential for those who still live and can continue on. Potential for the Jags series, which I won't even get into that anymore because it's never written anymore. I had a bunch of brainstorming ideas for it, but because it's not written, there's no point in going into that. Yeah, that's it. 3 hours, 50 minutes, a little shorter than the first one. That got to be a little longer than I was hoping. I was hoping it could be shorter, but it's done now. Hopefully someone sat through it again. If some people were, a lot of people, I was actually surprised how many people viewed the Season 2 commentary. I wasn't expecting, most BBC stuff doesn't get many views, so I was actually surprised to see the amount of views. However, like I mentioned, it was kind of bumming out to hear all the people just commenting on, make Season 2, when's Season 2 happening? I'll make that. So, please don't just comment all that stuff again on this one. If you have interesting stuff to talk about from the series, I enjoy reading all the people talking about some of the characters and stuff, and some of the stuff that they didn't realize from the script, but some of these things I explained here, and oh, that's cool, I didn't know that. I have a few more Songs of War videos I kind of have planned, but like I said, I'm not very motivated with Songs of War stuff anymore. Obviously, for me, when I saw it dying, my brain already just kind of switched off and was thinking it's time to move forward with my life, do the things I've always wanted to do, even though it's going to be risky, making these games that make a big cool game. So I kind of switched off after that point and just kind of finished things up. It's not very motivating coming back to all these things, but at the same time, there was some cool stuff I wanted to do. I did consider doing I've considered doing a live stream soon, in case you guys want to just ask questions or something. A final one, asking final questions about the series and story. Although, if people just constantly asking about, what can we do to make Season 2 happen, then that's going to be a really boring live stream that'll cut short. There's a few other things I want to do. It's going to release, some of the voice bloopers and whatnot. So, again, join our Discord. Link in description. A lot of stuff happens in there. There's still a whole section for Songs of War. You can discuss Songs of War stuff and whatnot. And, but other than that, this is about the end. There might be a few more videos on BBC about Songs of War, and then that'll be that. That'll be the last official stuff you'll see for Songs of War. There are fans still doing kind of fun fan stuff. I've seen there's still like some people working on servers. There's people doing like kind of funny videos. There's music videos. Some people are claiming that they're gonna animate season 2 and 3, which I'm curious to follow. And if it looks promising, I'd be interested in kind of overseeing bits of that or just giving advice or anything. But I haven't really seen anything actually being made. I was just hearing people talk about it. But if I do see stuff like that, that'd be interesting. I'd be slightly involved in that maybe. Otherwise, I'm working on my games now. I've been working on my games for weeks and months now. I've been modeling away and doing some assets and doing like a lot of programming and stuff. So I'll be busy on that. You can follow me on my personal channel if you want to follow my game stuff. If you're not interested in my game stuff, you just care about Minecraft and Songs of War, probably wouldn't want to follow me on my personal channel. Otherwise, that's it. It's David saying goodbye here on BPC, other than a few other videos, and I will potentially and maybe hopefully see you around on my own channel on my own game stuff, or not, I don't know. So yeah, see ya. Bye. Adios, amigos. Hasta la vista. I gotta find the stop button. Did you press the stop button? No. Did you press the stop button? No. Did you press the stop button?